19,000.
Welcome to the Town Board Work Session and Regular Meeting for Tuesday, January 23rd, 2018. Please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Remain standing. I'd like to ask for a moment of silence for the victims of today's school shooting in Kentucky. There are no words for a tragedy so unspeakable, and yet we find ourselves looking for them again and again. Our hearts go out to the families of the victims. May the victims rest in peace. We have a bit of a change in plans this evening. We're going to start with a quick, quotes, one-item work session before we move into the regular meeting. We've been approached by Matthew Galata of Galata House about hosting a polar plunge event at Lewis Angle Park this February to raise money for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. For those of you who are not familiar with this event, I will ask Mr. Galata to explain it. As the application goes through the Recreation Department, the Ossining Village Manager had brought the event to the attention of the Recreation Advisory Board. Thank you. They had voiced concerns about it. Since that time, we've been working with Galata House to address some of those concerns, but would like to bring this to the board for discussion before we issue a final okay to have the event in the park. We've reached out to the Rec Advisory Board as well to come tonight. Let's start with Mr. Galata. If you could please approach the dais here and describe the event you're hoping to hold at Engle Park and the measures that you have taken to date.
Good evening, Town Board, Supervisor. My name is Matthew Galata. I'm the president and founder of Galata House, a local nonprofit here in Westchester County. I live in Austin, New York. We're going to start the year off, hopefully. We're calling it Galata House Presents Escape from Sing Sing Polar Plunge. And I got the idea from Peekskill, which I'm a Hudson Valley Chamber member, which they successfully had 6 events. So I was there January 1st with my 14-year-old son experiencing that. And since my daughter and my son are nominated for Students of the Year for LLS in the whole area, Connecticut, New York, and Hudson Valley region, and Gio, who also goes to Austin Union Free School District, is the Boy of the Year, I figured it'd be a great way to kick off LLS this year with a polar plunge. So what I am requesting, I figured since the guard tower is right by the beachfront, I would like to propose a, right now we have about 42 applicants interested in doing the plunge. We have, we figured there would be about 30 to 40 feet going into the beach area, roped off in an area where it's confined with police. I have retired police officers. I have doctors that are going to be doing it. I have the Marines from Austin are going to be doing it. I have firemen. So we have a lot of emergency personnel that's going to be on staff. I have EMS. I have a fire truck. And the all the insurances I believe I have met. I talked with Maddie, the insurance company called Maddie, and I think they worked that out, and everything was supplied to the village and to the village manager. I'm sorry, to the town board and to the village manager. It's going to take place on, hopefully, on February 17th, which is a Saturday from 12 noon it starts. It only lasts about 4 or 5 minutes, so I applied to be there from 11:30 to 12:30. And it will be going to, everything will be going towards the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and I'm keeping part of it to go to Ossining High School scholarships. Because in the last 3 years, Ossining High School and the Union Free School District, we've been doing LLS events in this community, and we raised over $55,000. So now that we're doing LLS switched over to keep it student-driven, I thought it would only be fair to give back to the Ossining High School students who are helping out so much with the event. What else would you like?
Okay, so before we invite the Recreation Board up, when you mentioned just now, but on the phone, when you and I had spoken, you had said 15 to 20 feet. You said just now 30 to 40 feet. Is that width or depth going into the water?
I'm thinking, there's no set science to how many feet goes in, but to keep it in a confined area, I'm thinking 30 to 40 feet, which probably be from me to you, or me to that wall,
Along the beach or into the water?
into the water, and
So
30, 40 feet is,
a square then?
yeah,
Okay.
Okay.
which could be tweaked a couple of feet, but that's what I'm basically thinking.
And I didn't recall if you had mentioned lifeguards. I thought we had talked about that you were going to
Yes, that
have
is
paid
correct. We have
lifeguards.
We have 2 to 3 lifeguards confirmed.
2 to
also.
3 paid, like,
Paid lifeguards.
lifeguards who are, they're certified lifeguards.
Yes, they are.
Okay. So I just think that we're gonna need to get all of that additional information in writing, that you kind of just spoke about, and probably gonna have to draft some sort of an agreement and a stipulation with specific,
Yeah, I
things in-
forgot, I apologize. We have a waiver also that I supplied to the village and to the town board. So a waiver, before anybody goes into the water, they have to sign the waiver. They have to wear shoes. I forgot to mention that, I apologize. They have to wear sneakers or water shoes, no flip-flops or sandals, and then they go in.
okay? Okay, I'm now gonna ask for a member of the Rec Advisory Board. I believe Ms. Fern Quesada is here to represent the Rec Advisory Board to hear about their concerns, and I'm probably gonna bring you back up again, Mr. Galata.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. So I'm new on the Rec Advisory Board, so I kind of got brought up to speed a couple weeks ago. They had originally denied Mr. Galata's polar plunge, not because they don't think it's a great event.
Excuse me for one second, I just have to clarify. So the Rec Advisory Board doesn't have the ability to deny an
Okay, so
event?
they made
Okay.
the recommendation
Correct.
that the town or village at that point, I think is what it was brought in front of, we advise against it. The reasons for that is the beach has been shut down for so long, nobody can really remember. I have not been able to yet find an answer to that, but it was deemed unsafe years ago. I think Marlene had said she remembers swimming in it as a teenager, and then it was no longer available for swimming. So that was the main reason of the board's decision to advise against holding the polar plunge. They do fully support it as long as it's done in the manner that keeps everybody safe, both the town and the community members that would be participating in the event.
So, since we've had conversations between then application and now, I'm just going to articulate a couple of the concerns that had come up that were a little bit more specific to what that safety means. My understanding is people are worried about the cold. People are worried about the bottom, or the benthos, as I learned recently, the term for the
The grade.
grade under the water,
Yes.
that people would have a hard time if they ran in, that it wouldn't be safe, they run out, that there
Also
might
the-
be
Also
debris,
the water quality.
and the water quality. Those were some of the issues that had been articulated.
I didn't hear about the cold, but
Okay, well,
everything
maybe
else,
the
yeah.
cold was not as much of an issue. I think in general, that's something that comes along with a polar
polar
plunge.
plunge, get cold.
So I'm guessing that that's one of those general issues that all communities have had to deal with and have gotten over. But those other ones seem to be specific to the beach area at Engle Park. So in order to gather a little bit more information, I had done a little bit of outreach to actually Gareth Huffam, who sits on our planning board, thank you, Mr. Hoffman, and also happens to be the head of Hudson Valley Arts and Sciences. And they have been the lead agency on Village Pier Extension Project, which you're going to hear a little bit about in my announcements this evening. Dr. Huffman, as part of the project you're working on with the village, you conducted studies and did some drawings of the benthos, or the topography under the water at Engle Park. And I have some copies here for the board to take a look at. And I was hoping that you could just come up and talk to us a little bit about what your findings have in terms of that maybe 30 to 40 feet that we're talking about somebody going out, or again, maybe it'll be a little bit less than that. Okay, and then I have is
Good evening.
you can just share. I don't have extra. And okay, share. Okay. Hello.
Hi, good evening.
How are you?
I can give you a little bit of a briefing on what we know about the benthos there. As part of the work we've been doing for the Pier Extension Project, we hired a company, Hydrodata, to do a benthic depth study by side scan sonar. And they completed that study in November of this year, so it's fresh data. As far as we can tell from that sonar study, it looks pretty smooth in that beach area until about maybe 50 or so feet out, where there may be some debris or some large rocks. It's a little hard to tell because the side scan sonar is imperfect in very shallow water, sort of plus or minus a foot. But it looks pretty good up until about 50 feet out. And I brought along a printout of it's essentially a topographic map format of that.
I had copies that I
You have
shared
a
with the
copy of
board
that?
that I printed
Okay,
of
good.
that, but that's, I mean, you can certainly hold it to the camera. Yeah, that's great, thanks.
So as far as we can tell, there are no like sharp drop-offs that you would have to worry about, but there may well be some debris out in that sort of 50-foot range. We would be happy to go in there with waders, chest waders, at a low tide, and sort of walk the area if that would be useful to give you some assurance that it's safe. Regarding the water quality, this is something that we do routinely in Hudson Valley Arts and Science, and we would be happy to do some analyses in the weeks and days ahead of this event to give you a sense of the water quality with respect to two indicator organisms for water quality, one of which is E. coli and the other is Enterococcus. In addition to that, I can't speak for Riverkeeper, but I do know that they have an ongoing program where they measure Enterococcus, one of those two organisms, on that beach. So I know that they have some longitudinal data that I'm sure they would be willing to share with you. What I don't know is whether they stopped that at the end of the warm recreational season or whether they continued that. But if you'd like, I'd be happy to contact them and get what data they have to share as well.
Sure, that would be helpful. And then you had also mentioned that you would be willing to test leading up to the event itself, that you have the ability to do that.
Absolutely.
Be willing to do that to make sure that it's swimmable and that there's no other issues.
I can test up to about 24 hours before, but it takes that long to incubate the samples and so forth, so I couldn't give you real-time data that day, but I can give you an indication, up to about a day ahead of time, if that would be helpful.
Okay,
If there is a major rain event, there are often sewage overflows, in which case I would recommend not going in if it's a day or two, and sometimes 3 days of clean out is recommended, but depending on what the overflow event was like, you could decide.
Okay, awesome. So just stay there for 1 second. Okay, so Councilwoman Feldman and I had also had a conversation. We actually had a three-way conversation this morning because we were at another meeting. So Councilwoman Feldman, would you like to comment?
Yes, I would. Thank you. Having kept my boat there for all of 30 years. Anyway, I would say how old I am. Recently, the Yorktown dive team did an underwater exploration of that area to search for the supposed missing pier pieces and and old docks, and they found nothing. It was completely clear. That's not to say that during the winter storms, a tree or two hasn't washed up, so walking the area is absolutely a good thing to do. But as far as any debris left over from days gone by, there is nothing there. They did a complete and thorough search as if they were searching for a person. As far as the bacteria counts, I know you do these counts all the time. Riverkeeper tests there also. And the only time we've ever come out bad is directly after a heavy rainstorm. And it generally clears within 24 hours after a heavy rain. You just don't want to swim 24 hours after a heavy rain because of the E. coli coming down. What else? And I've gone in there to help people pull off rocks and everything. I've walked in there. It's not a drop off at all. So
Okay.
And
So,
I would add that any event that brings light to that beautiful beach is fully supported by my organization.
okay. Great. I'm going to ask Mr. Glotta if you could come back up, please. I had forgotten to ask. So, one of the things we talked about is our bath rooms that are down there are closed for the season because we turn the water off, and so we can't use the bathrooms. There's no, and it's not heated or anything in there. Can you just talk a little bit about? I think you had some plans for how people would change, and you might have already mentioned it, but you said a lot of stuff fast, so I'm just getting back to that
Sure,
particular
no,
point.
actually, I forgot.
Okay.
Thank you for reminding me. So we were scheduled, which is open to discussion,
You just pick the microphone up a little bit, so.
2 porta potties, which is that call ahead that I use, and the town uses at the park. So there would be 2 porta potties there for the duration of the
And that would
event,
be paid for by the event.
by the event,
Okay.
correct, by myself. And then we'll have tents there with hot chocolate and coffee. And if people need to get changed, I mean, at my polar plunges where I've been at, they use their cars, but we have tents, and if the town is open to using the bathrooms strictly for changing, it's a little walk from the event, but we will have tents. That would be helpful. I would like to add though, I went by there again today, and as a backup, as a plan B, and this would be open to the board's discussion, the dock area. I'm sorry, the boat ramp, and that would be strictly as a backup. And if that's available, fine. But let's just say there's ice, and let's just say we go there and it's completely iced. There is nobody jumping into the water. We have a plan C, and that's where the fire trucks come in, like they did in Peekskill, and people will get wet.
Right.
All right, so we have to understand that. So if there's any ice, or there's any ice on the beach, or if there's anything that's going to cause any kind of remote possibility of someone getting injured, it's not going to happen. We'll do we'll adjust it to make it fun and meet its purpose of raising money and helping people.
Okay. And just how do people get warm right after they come out so that they don't, have hypothermia or something like that?
Well,
of curiosity.
everybody's supposed to bring their towels. We will have
Towel? That's it.
towels, hot chocolate,
Like it.
and coffee.
it.
Like I said, they have change of sneakers. There is going to be EMS. There is going to be volunteers there to help people. But most of all these people have been experiencing polar plunges, so they know what to do.
Okay.
Are you thinking about having heaters in the tents? Sometimes like those outdoor heaters that you can put in.
If it's no, I was not. It was brought up by other people, but at Polar Plunge, I don't see them. I don't see them there. They're jumping in. I know technically it's probably someone wants to say swimming, but it's technically running in and running out. So there's no backstrokes or people hanging out swimming. It's running in, running out, and we have people there to help them warm up. But that's what a polar plunge is.
Okay, so. Say.
Also, I understand that the high school with Mr. Carlucci was doing testing all the way through November of the water
Oh, good.
quality. So we
Okay.
can also ask for their results.
Okay.
So
I mean, generally, it was my understanding that the water had been tested and it's swimmable. I mean, right, it's fine. So that, so here's the concerns that I think many of us would have, but, I mean, I don't know, does the board, did anybody want to weigh in?
Well, I had some concerns where we don't normally have that as a swimmable beach. And I don't know if an event like this is going to encourage people to now, when the weather is better, to start swimming in there. And it's not really patrolled. We don't have anyone out there, and I would not want to encourage people to go swimming in there when there's no lifeguard and there's that safety issue in the warmer weather.
Can you just say the definition of swimming? Because everybody's saying swimming. We're
I know
running
you're
in.
not swimming, but I'm saying now if people are getting into this and they're seeing people going in there for the polar plunge when the weather is warmer, are they going to now be encouraged to go swimming in that water because there are events in that water?
It's a good question. I would just think that everybody knows that this is a charity fundraising event. It's a one-time thing every
hope
year.
Jackie,
that's the concern.
You know,
Many people disregard, and the police come by and advise them. Many people go swimming there and are
I know.
advised by the police that that's not the
And there's
thing to
sign-
do.
we do have signs
And we
up.
have signage saying it's not, but it's not like this hasn't occurred to many people on a regular basis. I don't know that this would encourage them anymore, in my opinion.
Okay.
But I understand your concern.
Anybody else? Okay, so here's what I'm thinking. I mean, I think what we should do is, we've been advised by our council that we should have an agreement in place. I think that there are a couple of things that we're concerned about, like if there's ice, that there's not going to be swimming. I know you've said to me all these things, so I think what we'd like to do is just put down something in writing that we understand what, if this happens, then you're going to spray people versus do a plunge. You're going to put some kind of a marker out in, to the depth that we don't want people to go past. We're and sort of mark out what the available plunge area is, right? That you're going to have all of the things in place that you've already articulated, the lifeguards, the EMS, the fire, and that if in fact it's not swimmable because the water tests badly, or we find that there's too much debris, that you're going to go to Plan C, that you call it Plan C. I'm not sure about Plan B. I'm going to just defer to my colleague about
Often that ramp is very slippery, and that could be more hazardous than the beach. It's usually not. There's a lot of algae and stuff on that ramp, and people often slip and fall, even when it's not cold or icy.
yeah, that wasn't my choice to Plan B. That was just brought up, so I
Okay,
figured.
yeah.
So, okay, so
I-
it's
I-
not.
I
wouldn't
So
recommend that.
let's just say that there's a Plan A and a
and
Plan
B,
B,
yeah.
and there is no Plan C. So Plan B would be that everybody gets sprayed. So what we like to do is just like put that down, in a document.
Yeah.
That these are the conditions under which you will spray versus dip. And even today, I mean, there's like 2 feet of ice that would be very difficult for people.
It would
to-
not happen today,
You wouldn't
exactly.
be able to run in today. So, just as long as we're all clear on the conditions, if the board is okay with that, that's kind of what I would see, is that we'd have these conditions for it to be plunge versus spray. And all of those other safety procedures will be, in place. And if we can all be good on that, I'm sorry, Mr. Silverberg.
I just would suggest that, since you're more familiar with it, if you could perhaps write it out as far as what those conditions are going to be, and we can translate it into a short, simple agreement, not more than 27 pages.
Okay,
that we can
perfect.
do as quickly.
Okay, yeah, if that's okay with, if we have consensus, and I don't know if we do, but, if we have consensus, that would be the recommendation. So I don't know if we're gonna have enough time to take that up at our next work session. I might have to just send that around and have everybody say yay or nay to it, Yeah, I want to take a temperature of the board.
Okay,
Is
I'm all
it
for it.
plunge? You're for it?
For it as long as I don't have to do it, but I'll write a check.
I'm for it with the stipulations in writing that we've discussed.
Okay. All right, so we'll work those up, and we'll have a polar plunge on February 17th.
I want to say thank you very much
If
for your
everybody
support.
agrees.
I
Okay.
also want to say thank you very much to the Arts Council. I hope I'm saying it right. That was very nicely what you did and presented. Thank you very much. I was not aware of that. And hopefully, this is another great experience that Colada House is able to do in our community. And thank you very much.
Thank you. All right, you too, thanks. Thank you, everybody. All right, may I now have a motion to move into our regular meeting?
So moved.
Okay. Madam Clerk?
Okay. We will take our roll call. Councilmember Dottori?
Present.
Councilmember Shaw?
Present.
Councilmember Feldman?
Present.
Councilmember Wilshire? And Supervisor Levenberg.
Present.
This evening, we have two public hearings. Number one is 2018 cabaret license renewal for Westchester Ballroom.
Okay, so is there anybody here as you know, we have many businesses on North State Road, and a few of them, at least two of them are interested in renewing their cabaret licenses. So we're going to hear tonight from the businesses, and I think we'll hear from Westchester Ballroom first, and then we'll hear from the public on that, and then move on to Maya Riviera.
Good evening. My name is Vincent Savino.
I'm going to pick up the microphone so you don't have to lean over the whole time. I don't know if it's just going to stay.
I don't know if it goes up so high.
There you go. Awesome.
Good evening, Vincent Savino for Westchester Ballroom and Barbara Entrance, the owner. Westchester Ballroom is here, as you're aware, for the public hearing for the 2018 cabaret license renewal. We're happy to answer any questions and concerns that the board may have about the renewal. We've submitted our renewal application, and again, happy to answer any questions or address any concerns.
Okay. I think let's hear from the public first about this, and then we'll get back to you with our questions and concerns.
Is
Anybody
anyone
here from
who's
the public?
come to address the board?
Good evening, Mark Hoflick, 98B Morningside Drive. Thank you very much. We submitted a small little letter today, so I'm going to try to read it, but I'm also losing my voice, so you'll have to bear with me.
Do you want us to the clerk can read it into the record if you'd like? Or I'm sure there's somebody else in the back that would be happy to read it if you want,
Go for it.
so that you don't have to lose more of your voice. Thank you, Mr. Hoflick.
Fred Suckle, 98B Morningside Drive. Last May, when Westchester Ballroom asked for a license, they were given certain guidelines before a cabaret license would be granted. The main concern of the homeowners on Morningside Drive was the acoustical level and noise generated. From what the ballroom mentioned at the time, they modified a garage door and a back door facing north towards Morningside Drive. These solutions did nothing to drop the noise level and has been from that point in time continuous concern for the homeowners located near the building. The ballroom did not soundproof the studio as recommended by one of the residents, whom gave actual samples of what they can use to rectify the problem. It should be noted that the majority of this building is metal, including the roof. The building was never designed as a place to have live music and/or speakers. The Westchester Ballroom employees and its owners never had any outreach with the community and continue to play music loud enough to disturb surrounding residents. Yet the board, without checking to see if any of this was done, granted them a license last May. The sound of the music late at nights continues to disturb the residents on Morningside Drive. We basically feel our hands have been tied, and calling the police department, which Kim Jeffrey and myself and Mark have done numerous times, seems to be futile. The last time we called the Ossining Police Department, it was inferred by the police that we should have not have bought a house next to a commercial zone. Each time the Ossining Police Department officers spoke with Westchester Ballroom staff present, apologized to the officers, and as soon as they drove away, music was turned up again at a level that it was before they arrived. This occurred quite a few times, and actually lost track of how often we've had to call. The residents in town respect our police force, and over the years, and assist where possible. What the Ossining Police does is truly appreciated, and it bothers us that we have to constantly be calling them for this problem. No one has ever come to our homes during a ballroom event to check the sound levels. The noise is still a constant issue. It is not only the bass, but all the music is heard, as well as speeches given on microphones. On a Sunday night at 5 p.m., I heard loud music and drumming coming from the ballroom. I went down, and there was a DJ there doing a sound check. What I requested of him was to turn the speakers towards North State Road and to lower the volume. He complied. He was very nice, and we had no problems that night. There was no noise. The sound was, if there was any sound, it was very low. No one else does that. No one else that puts on an event there does that. The owner does not comply with any of the town's requirements. She does not consult with the homeowners about their problems. She has no respect for the neighbors or the neighborhood, or the board, because she did not follow your requirements the last time you requested that she do something about the noise. For this reason, we feel that a cabaret license should not be granted.
State this letter is not just from myself and Fred, but it's also from Ann McCudden, 98B, 98A, Morningside Drive, Richard and Emily Hare at 98 Morningside Drive, who are in Florida, Jim and Carolyn Basinas from 100A, Morningside Drive, Dave and Peggy Petersack from 100 Morningside, Kim and Alex Jeffries from 100B Morningside, and Don and Laurel Hopper from 97 Morningside Drive. Those are the few people I've gotten. I could probably get around 10 more people in the neighborhood. I appreciate your time.
Just
Thank you
a
very
follow-up
much.
on that, because I didn't see anybody's signatures or anything. How do we know that those people have also endorsed
One,
this
I'll
letter?
have them sign this letter, and I'll have it sent to you.
I think that would be helpful.
I have to go through a few people in Florida to deal with that. But thank
That'd
you.
be helpful. I don't know how they hear it in Florida, but okay.
Fax it.
Okay.
They just left 2 weeks ago. Hi, Kim Jeffrey, 100B Morningside Drive. I'm actually here speaking not only on my own behalf, but actually also William Shearer, who lives at 571 North State Road. He's an elderly man, doesn't have email. I guess I can print this out for him and have him sign it. I spoke to him by phone, so I can do that subsequently so that you know that it actually came from him. His statement is he and his wife Ann have lived in their house at 571 North State Road since December of 1974. He doesn't want to discourage any business, and he has seen a lot come and go. So he lives on North State Road and almost directly across from Suburban Karting, and right next to, this way, directly across from Westchester Ballroom. He recounts how years ago there was a petition about Suburban Karting having noise across the street from him, and he would not sign it. They employ many people. They are a good neighbor, according to him. If there is a noise complaint, they take care of it, and there are not many. The ballroom, he feels, don't care about anyone but themselves. They make a lot of noise, and they have no consideration. He's also extremely concerned about the auctions that they've had. They had people walking up and down, and he feels that if businesses are allowed to have people who have boards or placards that are around them walk up and down, then North State Road would be overrun with businesses that would have that. And he has concerns about that issue. He states that the ballroom is very loud and they go very late. So that is the end of Mr. Shearer's statement. On my own behalf, I will say that it has been a year since the time that the cabaret license was afforded to this business. And anybody who lives on North State or Morningside Drive or Gordon Avenue and the surrounding areas realize that we are surrounding a business district. This particular business is recent, and that particular building that exists was not made for this type of business. And so I think what I'm asking for is that the work is put into the building so that the quality of life of the neighbors around is not negatively affected to the point where children are woken up and people cannot sleep. There are a couple of things that I noticed in the town code. The code states that between 10 p.m. and 7 in the morning, that a commercial business is able to have a noise decibel of 55. I had one evening where the Westchester Ballroom was having one of their particular loud parties. And let me stop and say this. Not all Westchester Ballroom parties are created equal. They clearly are having different DJs. They are not using house equipment. It is not fair for us to ask the police when they show up there to go back there and say, can you report back to us and tell us if you have a DJ, if they have a DJ in there. That doesn't seem to be one of the things that the police department is going or able to do. We have a building department that isn't on a Saturday or Sunday night. And yes, they did show up one time, and miraculously, strangely, they shut down their music at 9 at night, which has never happened before. It has gotten to a place where we don't just hear bass, and that was one of the concerns almost a year ago to 8 months ago. We now can hear full music. I can tell when they're having a salsa party. I can tell what band and what music is playing. And I often can hear whoever the announcer at the party who's announcing. I can't always hear what they're saying, but I definitely can hear the microphone and the announcement, which I had not been able to hear before. The decibels in my bedroom on some of those occasions have gone up to 46. I know that if I went outside to my deck, I probably would have hit 55, absolutely. But I didn't go out on my deck because it was 1 in the morning. And that hits my second issue, which is it isn't just a decibel issue. And no, we don't believe any of the officers have ever come up to our actual Morningside Drive houses where we are to get the noise readings from there, because I think the topography bounces. So they think they drive in front, you can't hear it. They drive behind, they don't hear it too much. Somehow it is wafting up in terms of sound. They're also supposed to have their cabaret till 11 o'clock. Somebody tell me if I'm wrong. It's Sunday through Thursday, 11 o'clock. Friday and Saturday is midnight. They don't tend to have a lot of parties Monday through Thursday. They have some on Sundays. We've never had a real problem with lateness. But the Saturdays are going to 1, 1:30. On New Year's, they went till 2:45. So we have an issue of decibel. We have an issue of blowing through their time. And I would like to suggest that first, they don't get a renewal until they do some significant changes. And second of all, that there's a look into the code and changing some of that, or not granting cabarets for this particular business at this time from Sunday to Thursday. 11 o'clock is late if they were to choose to do it. And Fridays and Saturdays, 12 wouldn't be so late if we couldn't hear it. So that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else? Yeah.
Okay, can I, I'm sorry.
I was going to read.
Oh, you're going to
to
read the letter. Okay, that's fine.
Westchester Ballroom asked for this comment to be read during the public hearing tonight if possible. I do not support the issuance of a cabaret license for Westchester Ballroom. This business continues to operate in a manner that is very disruptive to the adjacent residential neighbors, disrupting residents' sleep and their peaceful enjoyment of their homes. The town of Ossining holds as a priority the health and well-being of its residents. Restful sleep is a foremost factor for good health and well-being, and for successful performance in school and work. If this business is unable for any reason to conduct their operations in a non-disruptive manner, then they should not be allowed to operate. It would be my hope that they would immediately make the necessary changes to become non-disruptive to the satisfaction of the adjacent residential neighbors, as the world certainly needs more dancing. Thank you for your consideration. And this is from
Donna
Donna
Sharrett.
Sharrett,
Do you have the address?
It's Morningside Drive.
Morningside Drive.
Also Morningside Drive, okay. I was hoping we could hear from Lieutenant Damiano, just to give a report. There have been a number of incidences. If you could just give us an overview.
Sure. Lieutenant Rich Damiano, Village of Ossining Police Department. In 2017, we did have an increase of complaints from the Westchester Ballroom. Mostly it's the back door and when the actual party ends right around midnight and the loud crowd doesn't leave on time and they're hanging out there and then the calls come in. Like Ms. Jeffries did say, not all the parties are created equal. So when we do have one of those big parties, we get multiple complaints from multiple residents. Also, the past month or so, they've been renting out the ballroom to outside people for Sweet 16 and other parties, and the owners of Westchester Ballroom are not there when my officers arrive there. And that is a violation of the cabaret itself. So we have everything they said. We did have decibel meters. It does hover right around the 55 mark. We did have an officer get dropped off and stay outside, see if they raised the music. They did not. But when the back door opened up, his decibel meter rose up again. We did issue a summons last week for the noise past the allotted time of midnight. We made a mistake on New Year's Eve because it was a Sunday, New Year's Eve, and our officers didn't realize New Year's Eve with everything else that was going on.
Got it, okay. So you're saying that they went late, they were operating later beyond
They
their...
were operating later than we
Time.
would have issued a summons. Well, it was Sunday night and it was a holiday.
I see.
They complied at, she said 2:45, it was 2:40, my report says.
Okay, so, I mean,
Yeah,
not just a little past midnight, not 1 o'clock, 2:40 in the morning. Almost 3 in the morning. Okay. All right. Okay. So I would invite Mr. Savino back up if you wanted to discuss any of these, or anybody from Westchester Ballroom, if you wanted to address any of these issues that have been raised. Would love to hear what you have to say.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Evangelina Rivera, and I'm a ballroom instructor at Westchester Ballroom. I do want to address that I recently held a fundraiser for Puerto Rico, and I did do outreach to the community. I went personally and I gave them a letter and a flyer about what we were doing, and I addressed their concerns, and I took their concerns back to Barbara. But one thing that I did do to make an adjustment regarding the sound was that we now take the speakers and we don't have them facing the back of the ballroom now, which is what used to be done. I have the speakers directing away from the back of the ballroom, which hits the houses, and I have it facing the street, so that minimized sound a lot. But I just want to say that we are trying to do community outreach, and by the way, I like your hair. I want to say that about his hair. But I did go to the homes personally and heard their concerns and have been working with Barbara to fix the sound and put material to minimize, because we do believe that they should have, that the community should live in peace too. But we also want to continue to do our work. Our work is very good work. It's outreach, and we provide a venue for the mentally challenged to come and dance in our space, for the elderly to come and dance in our space, and we are presently working on doing more fundraisers, especially one that we want to hold on for the Heart Association in February, which we are going to invite the families in the neighborhood to come and join us. It's going to be a family event. We just want to be able to continue to do events, and yes, we are working on the problems, and we're sorry if we're still causing them, but we want to work with the community to keep going.
Thank you. Okay. So,
If I could address a couple of points?
yeah, sure.
Part of the approval last May was that we install more soundproof. Sorry. Thank you. Part of the approval last May was that we install more soundproof installations, which we have. I believe that building inspector was there actually also when we were installing the soundproofing. If someone wants to come by and inspect and see what kind of soundproofing or recommend any improvements, we're happy to do that. We've also, as per the last approval process, installed an alarm bar on the back door. So where if someone pushes that door out, alarm goes out. It's not an exit anymore, it's an emergency exit. So there shouldn't be anybody outside having a smoke or hanging out or anything like that at all. I go to a number of these events, and I don't see anybody by that back door anymore. I don't see anybody going out. I don't see anybody going in because it's locked. So there shouldn't be an issue with the back door. If there still is, then I'm not aware of it. But like I said, from what I can see when I go to these parties, there is really nobody hanging out on the back door, and it's due to that alarm bar. As far as some of the other issues, as far as sound levels, it seems that most of, it looks like these sound issues are going to around Morningside. I've been at the studio when officers come in and measure sound levels, and I can say from in the parking lot, from speaking to the officers, and I don't have their names, I don't recall. I mean, it seems that there was more noise coming from State Road and the facility across the street, as well as crickets, than the building itself. And those were the comments that were made. I don't know how sound wafts uphill, but I think there's an issue, whereas whether or not the ability to hear sound, as opposed to whether or not it's below the reasonable levels. We're happy to say that. I mean, if for the next party, sounds like sound levels should be taken. I mean, according to the code, if I recall right, the sound meters should be taken at the property. So if somebody wants to go to Morningside or even next door to 571 North, they can certainly measure. Like I said, the officers seem to have these little devices where they can measure sound. So if there are violations, or if there's something that's over the limit, certainly violations would be issued the same way that violations were issued for playing music after 12 o'clock, that sort of thing. Aside from that, when officers, as agreed to, again, at the last meeting, when officers do come and say, look, we're getting complaints, could you turn it down a little, that kind of thing, we comply. And it was a big issue last year, just being complying and making sure that we would follow the lead or the direction of the officers. If they came in and felt that music was too loud, or if they asked us to lower it, we would. Certainly, we don't wait for them to pull out and then raise the music again. It's it is. We wouldn't want them to come back, because then they'd call and they'd come right back. I can't speak to I can't speak to that, but we've been doing everything. I have signed statements from DJs. I don't have them with me, unfortunately. I was this kind of, the public hearing kind of caught me off guard today. Wasn't aware that it was, so I wasn't able to get back to my office. I'm happy to provide the board with the signatures that we're requiring from all the DJs that say that they're going to be in compliance with the noise issue. We've tried to, put in an application prior to November 1st, as per the agreement. We're doing what I can, and I think there's a hypersensitivity here that there are some issues out there with neighbors, but as much as we try to go door to door or to put everyone on email lists, it just seems that even without any kind of noise sound level violations, there are still issues. And if it's close, I don't know what to say as far as if someone's going to document noise levels at 40 or 45 at a property, you're still within the code. Now, I understand that you may be able to hear it, but, I don't want to kind of go back to what the police said, that, your property is near a commercial district. But like I said, from what I can see, when I attend these parties, when I'm in the parking lot, I hear more noise from the street than I do the building. So, again, if the board has any questions or would like me to address anything, I'm happy to do so.
I have a concern. The one thing was the decibel issue, the noise issue. The other thing was the parties ending beyond the stipulated time. So I haven't heard you address that.
There was a ticket issued for 12:30, I believe at 12:35, one of those nights. That's our fault. And as much as we try to, where everything tries to, to work right, there seemed to be a miscommunication. We got a call from the police department that night saying that, please make sure you keep it down, that sort of thing. Barbara had immediately relayed it to her representative to say, look, just make sure that everything shuts off at 12. We have the folks here who were at the party who were responsible. For whatever reason, the DJ kept going, but the message was from Barbara and from Westchester Ballroom to make sure that it gets shut down at 12, but that didn't happen. Having said that, we're going to make sure that that doesn't happen again and work harder to make sure that it ends at 12 and you won't see that again.
Just as a follow-up to that question, if you don't mind, why was there nobody on site? It's stipulated at any event class activity that will last after 8 p.m., either Barbara Antes or Craig Streeter shall be on site for the entirety of the event class activity. If the police are called as a result of a noise disturbance immediately after being notified by the police, either Ms. Antes or Mr. Streeter, as the case may be, shall go to the residence to hear the noise from the studio that resulted in the police call. Once Ms. Antes or Mr. Streeter have visited the residence and heard the noise from that location, the applicant shall immediately reduce the sound to a level that cannot be heard off-site, as confirmed by the responding police officer or officers, and the applicant shall not increase the volume of the music again for the remainder of the night. Now, we've heard that multiple occasions they have not been on site. You just said there was a representative of theirs there, and I don't believe that they've been on site for multiple occasions. I'm not sure that the police were familiar with that particular stipulation, but if they're not there, how do they know what's going on, and how do they have control over the situation?
My understanding is that, at least the approval from the minutes that I have, and I don't have the approval in front of me, it says that Barbara Antes or another responsible employee of the applicant.
Okay, well, I have a copy of the resolution right in my hand.
Okay.
So this is the resolution.
I have a copy of the minutes, and that's what we were looking at. So as far as the resolution goes, if that's the case, then that's our fault, and we'll make sure that that's corrected as well. But the issue with that is it's very hard for Barbara to be there 7 days a week, and that's why we, like I said, it was our impression from this that says that a responsible representative. So if there is an issue, someone can call her and she'd be back there right away.
So again, that's not, there was a comment made earlier by one of the neighbors that we had issued, we had put these stipulations into place and then we're going to issue the license. Just to clarify, that's not the case. We issued the license with these stipulations in place, and that if these stipulations were not met, then we would, potentially shut you guys down. And we haven't done that yet, but we're certainly in a position where it's very difficult to grant you a renewal of your cabaret license when it seems like there are continue to be multiple issues with the neighbors, and you haven't complied with this. I'm not sure if you wanted to comment on the auction that happened for a couple of days, because I don't believe that you're permitted to have an auction, and you got one of the neighbors very upset There are people walking up and down with big, sandwich boards. I know that I saw it. I didn't know what the heck was going on or where that was coming from. I don't know what that was all about, but it seems like it almost seems like you're subleasing the space to other businesses to make up for the difference of when you're not having events. And I do get the emails. I put myself on that list. I don't know if you actually put me on that list. I think I would have been getting 2 copies of it if you had. So I do get the emails, and I noticed that a lot of the events that you host are not actually at the ballroom. You have events at other places. That's great, except for the fact that then you're subleasing this to other people. I don't believe that that's what you're permitted to do. So I'm not clear that you're having Sweet 16s and other things that aren't ballroom dance-led events with somebody from the business there and present.
Well, as far as the auctions go, the auctions was a misunderstanding, and you won't see the auctions anymore. Those are gone. So once that was pointed out, and Barbara and I spoke, and we straightened that out. So there are no auctions. As far as renting out the space, if someone wants to rent us the space for a dance party, that does occur. I know what Barbara can speak to, what kind of dance parties there are, but there are sometimes folks that have private dance parties. And it's not necessarily a children's party, but it's a dance party. And I'll let Barbara answer.
The evening of the incident was January 6th. I was out at another fundraising event in New Jersey. It was a birthday party, and I do have people who work for me. I have Edison and Ruth and Evangelina who do attend parties if I'm not there. Evangelina usually teaches the dance lessons. Edison and Ruth are there to help the people set up. They are there to comply. They are there to clean up, and they are there all night. They don't leave. At 9:30 that evening, and I have the text message, I did speak to the supervisor from the police department. He called me. I had the phone on me. He said, please tell them to lower the noise and please make sure it's finished by 12. I texted Edison and I called Edison. I said, I have a call from the police department. Please make sure you lower the noise and please make sure it's closed off by 12. And I have the text message showing that I did that. As I said, it's our fault. I know ultimately it's my responsibility that it was not done. But that was the one and the only case. John Hamilton has been there on numerous party occasions at night. And John Hamilton has gone to the other street, and he has measured decibel levels, and we were always below the decibel levels. The police are there for every party. John Hamilton actually said to me, it's getting to the point of harassing your business. John Hamilton's words. The police are there for every party. One party, I moved my Hustle Disco parties out of the studio because I didn't want trouble. So now I go spend money to rent other places so I don't have trouble with the town. The police know, they came in one night at 9 o'clock before the party started and said, we were told to warn you from the board that the music better be low tonight, before the party started. And we have parties on Sunday afternoon from 5 to 9, and the police are there. As I said, John Hamilton is very, very sympathetic to my cause, as are the police, as was the civil engineer from the town who came. We put in $1,000 worth of insulation, noise proofing. It was noise proofing across the back board. We put the noise alarm on the back door. Nobody goes out the back door. The calls he had were from early 2017. Nobody goes out the back door anymore. We have changed. We try I know you feel that I am not, that I don't care somehow. I worry constantly about this. I'm a single mother. I have a son in college. This is my only means of income. You want to shut me down? Shut me down. I do a lot of good for a lot of people. We do tremendous fundraising, tremendous. We sent a check to Puerto Rico for $10,000, and we worried all night that the police were coming. To scare the people out of the place. I did a fundraiser for the SPCA. Did I come to your swing for Sing Sing? I do fundraisers for Putnam Community Association, Drug Christ in Our Backyard, the Heart Association. Anybody who comes to me, we do a fundraiser for. And I have to worry that the police are going to come in when it is an unfounded case and upset me, my business, and the people in the studio.
The point here is that she takes it very seriously. And if the board or anyone else in the neighborhood thinks that she's not worried about this and she's not aware of the complaints and she doesn't take it seriously, that's not true. She very much wants to work with the board. She very much wants to resolve these issues. But there seems to be frustration on both sides, whereas it's all Barbara can do and still no one's happy. So if there are issues with sound violations, then have the police take the noise readings from 571 North Street, 98 Morningside, or 100A Morningside, 100B Morningside, whatever that community is around Morningside. And then if there are violations, then issue them. But if not, then she should be allowed to run a business.
About the event, party event. Party event where the theme
It makes that up.
is, sorry.
Sorry about that.
Usually it's a ballroom event.
Okay.
Or, one of the, to clarify a point that Barbara tried to make is that there used to be a lot more hustle and disco parties.
Right.
Which is a different kind of music. There's a little bit more of a bass line, whereas now she tries to do that off-site some other place because she's afraid that someone's going to hear a bass line somewhere else. So now she's got to go rent space in White Plains or rent space in Armonk or take that elsewhere. Because again, it's a different kind of music. And if you see the clientele or Foxtrot or Ballroom, it's an older crowd as opposed to the hustle crowd. But again, it's an effort to, it's an expensive effort to try to minimize the impact to the neighborhood.
What I'm trying to understand here is because there is a perception that there are other events going on that are not specific to ballroom instruction. So, for example, we understand that a wedding took place at the event hall.
I'm not aware of a wedding. No.
We said there was a wedding.
A wedding?
That was something that we heard. There was, I just want to clarify.
No, I mean, I'm not aware of any wedding. It sounds like isn't either. I mean, but this is the kind of thing that we're talking about. I mean, there's a lot of misconception. I mean, certainly, she's here if you want to ask her, but I mean, I don't believe there's a wedding going on now.
I have been listening to, I had a conversation with Mr. Shearer also. His wife is in advanced Alzheimer's. He's having his own health concerns. He's not able to come. He is having challenges with the loudness of the music, being that close, and the person pacing up and down in front of his house during that auction was very upsetting to him as well. I took it upon myself to go out there mid-December, about 11:30 at night on the way home from my office party. I wanted to hear it for myself. I didn't want to listen. I know that neighbors can be very sensitive about things, and it was loud. And I just was on the road, North State Road, and I looked in, and I saw some very pretty little girls in big frilly dresses running by the front door, and I could hear the DJ, and I could hear, I heard somebody speaking on a microphone, and I could hear music. So it was, 11:30, 11:45 at night. I turned around and came back by. I don't know what the event was. The parking lot was crowded. It didn't even look like there was room to pull in. But I tend to believe the neighbors, if I'm driving by and hearing it that loud. I also drove by Maya, and they were not as loud. There's a difference. So I don't know what kind of event it was with young girls running. It probably wasn't a ballroom event. But on my own investigation, I tend to believe there is a noise issue, and that we need to work. We need to do something. It's not okay.
Okay. As far as the noise goes, like I said, I'm happy to. You're talking about the people who live at 571 North Street. Those are the folks.
Well, I talked to them. I ran into him in the supermarket, and he was telling me.
Okay. Well, like I said, if there's an issue with sound levels, certainly the police can go out and measure from that. If you're requiring more soundproofing or some kind of inspection to say, look, maybe you should put more soundproofing here or there, look, we're happy to do that too. But it's got to be reasonable. Again, if look, I don't know how close you are to the building, but like I said,
I didn't leave the
It's
street.
kind of, I mean, what you're saying, though, is a very subjective thing. I mean, if you can hear it as opposed to if it's above the noise levels. And if it's above the noise levels, then we're at fault. If it's not, then it's allowed, it's permitted. And so far, there hasn't been any violations regarding being over the decibel limit.
Okay, how many times have you been called because I went after 12?
That's right. And because the alarm bar resolved that issue, and we were happy to install it.
When was that installed?
The bar was installed in May, but I believe that the issue with the alarm might have been installed sometime around October.
Yeah, and when did your client get the renewal on the license that indicated that that should be done?
May. But like I said, there was a little bit of confusion as far as the actual bar as opposed to the alarm. So the bar was installed in May within the time period, but the alarm was installed after. But there was still a lock on the bar. But again, once we found out, once we checked, part of this comes up when we're looking through, putting through the application and making sure we're in compliance. And when we saw that there was an alarm that needed to be installed, we immediately did that. So there is an alarm on there now. But again, it was done in October. Installation, yes, in May.
Because I see the building inspector
Right, it was done immediately. I mean, as soon as, once we heard some feedback, I mean, it was done right after the approval. So sometime in May, or, you know, it might have gone into early June, but right after the approval process, we tried to address all the concerns.
I think that was October. That was when the building inspector suggested, right?
Well, when I spoke to John Hamilton, that was about issues with the property itself. There's something else going on with the with parking issues, but I think they're dealing with that with the owner. Because when I spoke to John, he said that really wasn't for you, that was for the owner, because I wanted to make sure that I got back to him in a timely manner.
that's part of it with the parking, but it also says, so the approval of the plan is not being followed.
Well, again, I think from my conversations with John, that was really more of a part of the parking issue and things going on with the owner. However, I'm happy to double check if that's the case and work things out with John to see if he wants us to do something. But I've had maybe 3 or 4 conversations with John since then. And at that point, he said there's really nothing for us to do. As a matter of fact, I believe he came out to the property several weeks ago.
As far as events, I think that Mr. Hamilton has only been out to your property once at night during an event.
I've seen him in his car driving around. I happened to be there that night as well.
Not as far as I know.
Well, I think we can check with Mr. Hamilton to find out when he's been there and what he's seen.
We can absolutely do that.
Right, and I'm sure that, like I said, that what he'll report back is that he couldn't hear anything from the properties in the neighborhood. I'm sure he'll confirm that.
I'm sorry, you said that the event that was taking place on the 6th of January, is that what you just mentioned? What was the event? A birthday party. And I just noted in here there were a couple of Sweet 16s that were mentioned in some of the police. Well, it said right in the police report that a Sweet 16, let me just find the date because I just saw it. Actually thought it was too nice. I think it was 11 November 12th. Thank you. 2017. Is that right? 2017. Can you just read it for me, Lieutenant Damiano, because I'm just not having problems finding it.
November 2017.
Wait.
On the 12th of November 2017, units responded to a report of loud music. Upon arrival, Music could be heard outside the establishment, but was not unreasonable. The gentleman whose daughter the Sweet 16 was for had the DJ lower the music to less than half without being asked. Party was ended prior to time given to officers of 0300. One white SUV was left on the property due to mechanical problems.
Okay. So again, that's just, it's,
Well,
and it went till 3 o'clock in the morning? That was Sweet 16.
well, someone can speak who was there about that. I mean, from what I understand, it wasn't a Sweet 16, but if you want to. Well, my understanding, it wasn't a Sweet 16. I mean, I
Okay,
can't-
so it's your word against the police department, I guess, who were reported to it? It's, there's a lot of conflicting information. Yeah.
On November 11th, day before, reporting officer Addison Chavez responded to Westchester Ballroom to meet John Hamilton. John Hamilton stated he needed to conduct a check of the sound equipment. The location was being rented for a Sweet 16 private event. All appeared in order per John Hamilton, Town of Austin employee.
I mean, I can't speak to that. I mean, maybe there's a misunderstanding with John, or I just don't know. I can't speak to it.
All right, counsel.
No, I just had a couple of more questions, although I have to comment, and I wonder if it really makes a difference whether it was a Sweet 15 or a Sweet 16. It was a private party. But just going to some of the conditions on this. One of the conditions was developing a direct communication system with the neighboring residents who have noise complaints. Now, has any of that been done?
Well, developing direct communication is really either the email list or reaching out to folks as far as going door to door.
Well, has any of that been done?
Well, that has been
One time.
Party. They go door to door if there's a
For that one, for
that
the
one
Puerto
event.
Rico event, right?
Right. But I mean, but the door is always open. I mean, there's been people who just kind of come in and.
And then requiring the DJs and bands to sign a statement acknowledging the requirements. You indicated you have signed
I
statements?
do have those. I have them in my office. Like I said, unfortunately, I was in New York City all day. I couldn't get back to
And is that always done? Is that done every single
Always.
time?
To my knowledge, it is. It's always done.
Yeah, because just looking at the police reports, there are several of them where they say that they contacted whoever was there. It was after midnight, and the individual indicated that they didn't know or they had been told it was okay to go later.
Well, that shouldn't happen. I mean,
Well, there's a lot that shouldn't happen, but I'm trying to find out why it's happening.
I can't answer why a DJ would feel that he goes by after 12 o'clock. Well, like I said, we do the best we can to make sure that if there's a DJ that comes in, he signs the paperwork and he knows that it's 12 o'clock. I mean, clearly there was a communication breakdown where if there's the DJ shouldn't be playing at 12:30. That's on us.
And did the DJs bring their own equipment?
I don't believe they bring their own speakers, but they bring their own turntables and things like that. But they usually plug into the house equipment. They're not supposed to bring their own equipment.
Say they usually do. Do we know if they always do?
Well, I'm not there for every single one, but
It sounds like nobody's there for every single one, so I'm trying to find out what the rules are.
the rules are that they're not supposed to bring their own equipment. The rules are that they plug into they use the house.
And is there somebody there who works for Ms. Antis who checks that?
Typically, it would be Ms. Antis who checks that.
And then there's a requirement that the supervisor's office receive at least 7 days' notice of all events.
That's right. And from the approval last time, we agreed that putting you on the email list would satisfy that requirement.
I do receive those. I put myself on the email list.
Yourself on the list.
I did.
Well, Barbara would have put you on as well. So, but I mean, again, that was what was discussed at the meeting, and to comply with it.
I mean, I think it would be helpful, I don't know whether the board intends to continue this, but if you are, it would be helpful to see all those signed statements from all the DJs covered and so.
I'm happy to provide that.
I guess the thing that would seem the most helpful would be to have some sort of a sound test where the ballroom folks and building inspector and or engineer and maybe even somebody from our police department have an opportunity to turn their music to the regular level that they're usually played at so that it sounds like a dance party happening in there. And they go walk around the corner and they go visit Ms. Jeffrey and they go visit Mr. Hoffleck and they go visit all the folks on that list who are complaining. And it doesn't have to be at night. It can be during the day, although at night might be the time because there are a variety of issues that, topography or whatever. Mr. Savino, you said you don't think that that noise travels uphill, but we actually know that noise does travel in different directions depending on topography. So, it does make a difference. And have the opportunity to listen for yourselves and hear what the experience is. I don't think you've done that. We asked you to do that. You didn't do that. You didn't. And I think that the soundproofing that we had asked for, you had already done before we asked you to improve upon it. I'm a little sketchy about the dates, and we can go back and look at those a little bit more closely. But I think we had asked you to improve upon the soundproofing last time round when we were giving you the extension or whatever when we granted you the license. So I think those are if you could actually get at the heart of the matter, which is keeping the neighbors out of it. Like they don't want to have a party in their house. They want you to have your party and not have to experience the party in their house. And if it were your house, you probably wouldn't want to have that experience yourselves, right? If you want to try to go to sleep or you have kids or whatever it is. So we'd love to have a business, and we've said this before, that's thriving, but not at the expense of all the neighbors and the residents in the area. So my suggestion would be that we get these folks together and we do a number of sound checks at reasonable levels that make sense. So if somebody's in there, they're feeling like they're at a dance party, and we may have to do it when you have the party with the people there, because they make noise too, so you can feel what that's like, so that the noise is actually at the level.
I was just going to suggest, I was just going to suggest that if you're going to do something like that, you should do it at night because the ambient sound levels are different at night than they are during the day.
Okay.
Look at what the impact is. I think you need to have a I mean, it'll never be exactly the same because the wind could be different at a particular time or whatever, but at least do it in the evening when the ambient sound levels are lower.
Okay.
I would agree. I think that's right.
I just want to say,
I want to just hear from my other board members, and then you can go back.
So there is another issue here because there's conflicting reports from the police department and from the ballroom on exactly what type of events are being held. And I do think in addition to the noise considerations, our understanding is this business is ballroom dancing, dance instruction. Anything that happens there is related to that business. We have heard that that you're essentially renting out the place to other people for private events, which can also mean, that also means that events are happening where you're not there because that's what we're hearing. And it's documented in police reports, so we really have to get to the bottom of that because I don't know why that would be in a police report if that wasn't the case.
Well, and I will say that our building inspector has confirmed that and said that he's had the same reports. And this is Mr. Hamilton, who you said was sympathetic to you, but I spoke with him, this week about this, and he said that he's concerned that you're using the space for something that's not really permitted to be using the space for, which is basically subleasing it to somebody else for another event. And I'm sorry, let's just continue to hear from the board members if you have anything else, and then I'll let Mr. Savino comment again. Why don't you turn your microphone on and pull it a little closer?
One thing I would like to say is that I don't know if going out there with nobody in the building and doing a sound check, I don't think that'll work well. The sound works the same way if there was nobody in this room now, it may be cold in here. But with all the bodies in here, the heat, it's, you know what I'm saying? you need the people to make the sound bounce off them too.
And I think I did say that we'd have to do it with, when there's an event going, because it would change the dynamic of the sound.
I really love the idea of the ballroom. I think it's a great business. I've heard good things about your classes. I've heard people talking about how they're enjoying their classes. And I really do want this business to succeed, but not at the detriment of the neighbors and their sleep. We really need to work this out. And, I'm a single mother too. And if it was my livelihood, I would take the time and go to the neighbors and work it out and just do it. And, I think that you really need to work together. I think that you need to step up and do it. Even if you feel that you've done it, you need to do it again because it obviously didn't get resolved. You need to talk to people about ending at the proper times. And I want you to succeed. I think it's a wonderful business. In addition, I'd even want you to have your disco parties. But I think we need to address whatever soundproofing, even if it's landscaping the way that the Briarcliff had to do. There's got to be an answer so that the neighbors don't have to hear. We can all work together. There has to be a resolution. I'm just not comfortable at this point letting you continue to aggravate the neighborhood.
Well, to address a couple of points. Number one, with the renewal last year, with the application, I had submitted a letter to the board with sound measurements. So it was tested from, I believe it was, if I recall correctly, maybe 50 feet from the building, showing that we're well below the sound requirements. So, and this was even before the new insulation was put in place. So there were measurements taken, and we were well below. So it's not like no one's ever measured from the property. I've been with the police where they drive around and he pulled out a measuring tool and they measured the sound from the parking lot, and we're below that as well. So there are measurements that have been taken. So it's not as if you had mentioned before that we haven't really taken measurements. That's not the case. The other part of this is that these measurements, right after we got the approval, more soundproofing was put in. So we did address it. If you feel that a little bit more soundproofing has to go in, well, we're happy to do that as well. But I will agree that maybe we need to take some sound measurements at night when there's a party or something. And since the police have the equipment, we could all meet up in this one section of Morningside where it seems to be an issue, and we can take measurements and we can see what it is. I mean, we're happy to do that, but as long as it's, as long as we can all get along and take the right measurements and understand that maybe these noises are coming from the ballroom. Like I said, from the measurements that were taken when I was with the police, they were picking up crickets more so than the building. So we are happy to do that and maybe work a little closer. But if the measurements are below from 50 feet away, it would just make common sense that they would be below from several hundred yards away, terrain notwithstanding.
I wish I could say that were the case, but we know for a fact that that's not the case, Mr. Savino. We know that the sound travels differently. Whether it travels underground, I don't exactly know, but it travels differently. So right outside the building, you may not hear it, but you may hear it farther away. I know that sounds odd, but we've heard that before from other businesses. And again, it has to do with the topography. When the properties are up higher, I don't know if that's exactly what it is, but there's something about the way that sound travels that you might not hear it right outside the building, but you may hear it farther away. So again, I don't know that the sound checks have been done at the, within, whether it's inside the homes. You're not supposed to hear anything inside homes. You're not supposed to, I believe, from our noise ordinance.
You're not supposed to hear anything outside
or inside. It actually addresses inside the home too. So both of those places we can measure and we can look and see how that jives with our noise ordinance, and then go from there. But I don't think that while we had this one-time effort made by Evangelina, very appreciative that she took the time to go and invite everybody to the fundraiser, and we're very appreciative of all the good work that you do for all of the funds that you raise and for Puerto Rico, of course. But what again, that doesn't negate these other issues, unfortunately. There's still these issues. So if you could take the time that you do for all those great things to work with your neighbors to try to address how we can make this soundproof from the neighbors, that would be fantastic. Then we would have a win-win, but we don't
Well-
have a win-win right now.
I think the first thing we should do is have the testing done. I mean, but I think that, again, if we could work with the police department or a member from the board, we're happy to have residents there as well. Let's take measurements from there. And we trust the police. They have the equipment. Let them take measurements from the from Morningside and see what's going on.
Do you have a suggestion?
Well,
For us to move forward.
certainly, that makes sense, but I wanted to, one other point, if I may, which is there seems to be confusion between the applicant and the board members as to exactly what the business is and what's going on there. And I think as part of your application, you should supplement it and describe exactly what you're going to be doing there.
Okay.
So we know whether there's going to be a Sweet 16 party, and if the board feels that that's appropriate, then they can approve it. If they don't, they can say, no, you can't do it, just so everybody's on the same page.
We can certainly modify the application to list every type of, I mean, there are other events that go on there as well. There's a jazzercise class, there's Zumba, but that's dancing and teaching as well. I mean, it's part of, it's not ballroom dancing, it's not hustle, but it's dancing. And those are the other types of instructions that go on. It's a different crowd, you know,
We're more concerned about the number of events that have been reported. Again, some of them documented in police reports. So there is a difference between running a ballroom dancing business and running an event hall. It's two distinctly different businesses.
Okay, well, we'll be more specific as to we'll revise the application to be more specific as far as what types of parties are going to go on there.
Original application, when I first moved to town, the original application said dance lessons. The original application said dance lessons, dance parties, dance events. I've been in business 18 years. I've been in 4 towns in Westchester. I've done the exact same thing. And put everything, the same thing down on every application. I've had a cabaret license every place I've gone. And there was another studio there, Dance New York, was in my space 10 or 12 years ago. I don't know who else is in the town, maybe remember Dance New York, and Clyde Phillips were there. And they did the exact same thing that I did. He still comes to my studio. He had the exact same thing and did the exact same thing I did, classes and parties 10, 12 years ago, and it was approved back then.
Again,
Can I ask
I mean,
what
and
the other 3 towns were?
Pleasantville, Mount Kisco. No, actually, I had 2 locations in Pleasantville, so it was Pleasantville and Mount Kisco.
Hi. Good evening, everyone. My name is Edison, and I help Barbara, because she's nice. She's my friend. And I like to dance some samba and all of that. I like to go over there to do the latest, whatever she has in there. The town is absolutely right. I mean, if I live around there and I'm not into a party, I like to sleep in, nobody. I don't like to have loud music. I wouldn't like to. And I understand everyone. And I volunteer to, to go out there and, talk to the neighbors whenever she's having, I mean, I know she's busy, she can be everywhere, but I can probably I can help you, Barbara, with that if you like. You can go out there and, talk to the neighbors. Is it okay? I believe when everybody's going to be old, and I'll be old too. And I understand when, we need to sleep. Sometimes it's hard to sleep at nighttime. So if I can have the list, maybe Barbara can give it to me. I can go over there on that time. I'm a young person and a little bit. And I can do that, I mean, that's my sense that I can afford to this, because I help Barbara. She's a nice person. She did a lot to me. And, just put in consideration, please. Thank you so much.
Excuse me, are you Mr. Chimbo? That's your last name?
Yeah, yes. My name is
So there was a police report on January 7th that said that you were in charge that night. So do you work there, or?
What happens, as I said, I help Barbara. Sometimes I help Barbara, and sometimes when she's busy, and she was away, so she just gave me and at that point, I'm sorry that I told the DJ just lower the music. We have to finish, and he just he has his business too, and he didn't want to listen. But it's something that I have to tell him. I mean, next time I know she should pull my hair out, because she already told me, and kind of like I wasn't tough enough, to make that happen.
Did you have
so.
a signed agreement from the DJ that night that he knew what the rules were?
Well, The attorney had that agreement. I didn't know.
So you don't, I'm sorry, I
The
misunderstood.
paperwork it wasn't given to me,
It
so
wasn't given to you. So that DJ didn't have the paperwork that night, and you didn't know about the time limit.
Well, I was just saying, I was just helping Barbara, so that night.
Okay.
So sorry
Thank
about that.
I'm sorry. Hi, my name is Ruth. Only I try to say, I love the place over there, Ballroom. It's very nice. I'm so the people happy. I know because I say give you one more chance, and my husband talk about he can talk with neighbors and try to, maybe you can help about the songs, maybe any special instrument for helping, because it's very important. Because she is doing business in Ossining. I live in Jefferson Valley, but I love these towns. That's the reason say maybe you can give it one more chance and maybe can talk with the neighbors and say what is good, But I love it, that place, and I saw a lot of people coming, enjoy, and see their faces. It's happiness. Only I say that. Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
So as far as community outreach goes, we'll reach out to the police department or the village engineer or whoever you want, to take measurements.
Okay.
In addition, we'll reach out to some of these neighbors. I don't know, as far as improving the lines of communication, maybe that's putting them on the email list too, or giving them the phone number, which I'm sure they have already. But, we're open to suggestions as far as improving dialogue.
I mean, I guess it's not just giving them the phone numbers, actually responding when they call, and in a way that's conducive to neighbors.
Okay.
Helping neighbors. Okay, thank you very much. Is there anybody else who wanted to address the board on this issue? If not, we're going to keep this public hearing open to the next meeting, which is February 13th. Is our next meeting. So we'll keep this open until then. Okay.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And that's just to leave the public hearing open. That's what we moved to do?
I just want to make a note. The gentleman, Mr. Savino, is correct. So there were two resolutions about 30 days apart. That was the one distinguishing factor between the two.
I see. Okay, thank
was
you.
that
Wasn't-
he is
I was
correct. It
right
said
about-
Miss Antes or to contact Miss Antes or another responsible employee of the applicant.
Okay, thank you. So you are correct. Thank you for that correction. Apologies for having the wrong information. Okay, so where are we up to?
We are moving to our second public hearing.
Thank you.
2018 cabaret license renewal for Maya Riviera.
Okay, is there somebody from Maya that wants to address the board? Yes, no, maybe? Okay, so we just noticed that Maya had applied to extend the hours. So in the application, they were asking for, I'm trying to find, you have it? Thank
Yes,
you,
so
Ms. Hotch, 'cause I'm like
yeah,
trying
yeah.
to find.
So the town code allows Sunday through Thursday until 11 p.m. and Friday to Saturday until 12 a.m. And the board does have the discretion to go outside of that time frame, but that's what the board held Maya to, and I believe Westchester Ballroom as well the last time around. And this time they've asked for 11 a.m. until 1 a.m. Monday through Sunday. So it would be an additional hour on the weekends and 2 additional hours during the week.
Okay, so is there anybody from Maya that wants to talk about those extended hours that you're looking for and why you want those extended hours? No, yes, no? Hmm?
Happy if you extend the hours.
You just want to introduce yourself.
Yeah.
Say your name.
So we're so happy if you give like 1 extra hour or 2 extra hours.
Can we have
Introduce
your name
yourself. Say your name.
My name Roberto Nova. Yes.
And you're from Maya Riviera?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so, go ahead now.
Yes. So we're so happy if you give 1 extra hour or 2 hours in the weekend. So we very happy with that.
So specifically the weekends, because you
Yeah,
were asking
weekends,
for
yeah.
the weekdays as well as the weekends.
weekends is the, when the people go out, they want to stay a little late. So
And Lieutenant Damiano, have we had any reports on this business and any complaints?
No, we don't have any complaints in regards to loud music or parties, but I would like to suggest if we kept it all the same, if Westchester Ballroom is going to midnight, then it's just easier for my officers to know exactly what the cabaret stipulates so they can issue summonses effectively.
Just out of curiosity, is that true in the village? Everybody is held to the same time?
Yes.
In the village? So what time is it in the village?
Well, it's different between cabaret and staying open. No cabaret is supposed to go past 3 a.m., so all the businesses are closed down.
The cabarets
the
go-
bars. The bars close
The
at
music
The
3
bars.
3 a.m.?
The bars go till 3 a.m. Or the music goes to 3 a.m.
I'm not so sure.
I think the music only goes to 1.
I'm not so sure.
The clerk says the music goes to 1.
I said I think.
She believes. Okay. I'm sorry. Ms. Hotch, did you have a comment? No. Okay. Mr. Silverberg?
Just that, obviously, the liquor license has a different time frame on it, and you can't stop somebody who has a liquor license from serving liquor until the hours that the license allows, but you can regulate when the music is played.
Might I be so bold as to suggest that we leave the time the same for right now?
Okay.
And if, in fact, there's some way that we are able to nip in the bud the sound traveling issues of Westchester Ballroom, then perhaps we can extend both of them by an hour because they're not disrupting the neighbors. And I'm sure that the neighbors wouldn't mind if they couldn't hear that, the parties keep going, then I don't think they're going to have an issue. So if we're able to address the sound problems, we might be able to extend both of them by an hour. But at this moment in time, I think we should just leave them as they currently are.
the same will happen. Okay.
I would just say that I don't know that you necessarily should penalize one business based on another business. Maya has never had, that I know of, in the time that I've been aware, any complaints. And so I don't think the police department is going to have too much trouble distinguishing the 3 businesses that are in the outside, town of outside, unincorporated, however you'd like to speak about it, who have cabaret licenses. At this point, you have 3 businesses, and I don't think it's a big educational leap for the police department to figure out, which they are and what their times are. Maya has a different type of business model than the other 2 businesses that have cabarets. And so for them, there's a bigger draw for having music and, being able to have that kind of atmosphere. I'm not on his payroll. I don't live right next to him, but I do have a lot of friends who live right behind there, and they don't complain about it. So that would be my 2 cents about the possibility of extending a cabaret for this particular business.
Thank you.
I'd like to also speak on behalf of Maya Riviera. Mark Hoflich, again, 98B Morningside Drive. I've been to Maya Riviera a few times. I've listened to the music and everything like that. The one thing about that building that's really unique, it's not a metal building. It's a structural building that has solid walls, thick walls. It's acoustically lined. The ceiling, the roof, has a roof in there that all these elements that are in that building that deaden sound. Unlike the other business that we were talking about earlier tonight, it's a metal building with a little bit of brick facade in a few spots. In the wintertime, sound travels up because there's no leaves to protect everything, the direction of the wind. There's a big, big difference between May, when they did the test last time, and if they do a test today. The wintertime, the sound is just traveling over. And again, in a metal building, as an architect, that's all I'm going to say. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no one else to speak, I have a statement here again from a resident. I am in support of the cabaret license for Maya Riviera. This is an excellent business on North State Road, and to my knowledge, they have always been considerate of the adjacent residential neighbors. We need more businesses like them. And this is from Donna Sharrett.
Okay, thank you. Is there anybody else who is here to address the board about Maya Riviera? Okay, board colleagues, did anybody have anything they wanted to add or questions that they have or concerns about the time, I think?
I think the only concern was the officers wanted, I guess, want everybody
Consistent.
on the same page. Is that what he's trying to do?
Be easier for my officers. But we don't get complaints from Maya Riviera, and I guess if we did, we could issue a warning and then, issue a summons after that.
Because I just sort of hate to see one person, somebody judged by everybody else, and it should not be. We had no problem with them. Support them.
I wouldn't hate trying it on a provisional basis, but I'd like to hear.
Is there a way to
I do
try
want
it
to
on a
respect
provisional
the police
basis?
officers.
Is there a way to try it on a provisional basis and get the feedback?
You could give them a temporary for, let's say, 90 days or something, and see if there's any issues, and have them come back if you wanted to do that, I suppose.
Fine with me.
So, are we okay with that? Okay. Okay, so I think then consensus-wise, it sounds like we would issue them a provisional license to extend the hours for the weekends only to the 1 o'clock time. Is that what we were saying? Or from 12 to 1, and then we will evaluate after 90 days, and we'll discuss with the police department if there's any complaints. We could scale it back to the original time. Correct?
I
Okay.
suggest you fix a specific date so we all know what when the 90 days ends, so that we don't wonder about it.
Can we pick 90 days
90
from?
days from February 13th, so
How about
May 13th.
Is what's February? February 13th is when we would approve the cabaret? Okay. Okay, so we'll just,
Say Sundays only?
no, it was
Fridays.
Fridays and Saturdays only.
Meeting is May 15th, if you want to.
May 15th. Okay, so until May 15th, we'll have the provisional through May 15th till 1 o'clock, and if everything's good, and that would only be for the we're just extending it for Friday nights and Saturday nights. And then we keep it for the 11 o'clock time for Sunday through Thursday night. Correct? Okay? Yes, no? Good? Everybody okay with that? On board?
Yes.
Okay.
Do we need to have the owner submit a revised application in that case?
Do we?
No, you can just, that's what you're approving.
Okay. Wonderful. Okay, so without further ado, I think we're going to close the public hearing on Maya Riviera. Do I have a motion?
So move.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? All right, thank you very much. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Have a good night.
I don't mean to make your life more difficult.
Thanks, Richie. Can you tell them about this noise, this chirping noise that I... Thank you.
Not helping
Okay,
me
no, because
either.
I saw somebody here from, okay. Okay. Where are we up to?
We are now moving into announcements.
Thank you. All right, I'm going to start with a quick reminder from our receiver of taxes, Holly Perlowitz. For those who have not already paid it, our second installment of 2017-2018 school taxes are due, rather your 2017-2018 school taxes are due. I did pay mine early, by Wednesday, January 31st. It is really important that you pay close attention to this deadline, as the penalty goes up to 10% on February 1st. This penalty must be assessed and cannot be waived for any reason if payment is not made by the deadline. It is the law. You can pay in 3 ways. Online at our secure site, townofaustin.com/cms/resources/tax.bill-online-payment. This is an easy and economical way, just $1.50 per e-check, to have instant proof that the payment was received subject to collection. You should always check that it has gone through from your bank by verifying it was deducted from your account. In the tax office, our offices at 16 Croton Avenue, Ossining, are open from 8:30 to 8:30 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. daily to receive your payment. Additionally, on Tuesday, January 30th, and Wednesday, January 31st, that's next week, the tax office will be open until 7 p.m. By mail, please recognize that if you choose to mail your payment, we can only accept a payment as timely if it has a postmark made by the United States Postal Service dated on or before January 31st, 2018, and if we actually receive it in our office. Having your envelope hand-stamped is not a guarantee, as it could get lost before ever arriving in the tax office. Many have. If you use bill pay from your bank, please be aware that they do not use USPS, so you have to recognize your risk of timely payment. Leave plenty of time. If you have any questions, tax office is available to quickly respond either by calling their office at 914-762-8790 or by emailing taxreceiver@townofossining.com. Before I discuss what's coming up, I wanted to recognize Briarcliff Manor Fire Department for inviting us to join them this past Saturday at their inspection and dinner, and I was joined by two of my board colleagues, and it was quite a wonderful event. Their staff and apparatus looked great, and we're happy to hear that they're moving forward to address some of the issues that have made their way, unfortunately, to the press in the recent past. I also had the opportunity to march on New York City as part of the women's marches taking place all over the country on Saturday. I was so happy to march with fellow Councilmember DeTore and many others from Ossining and Briarcliff to stand up for women everywhere against harassment and intimidation, for free speech, equal pay for equal work, for those who do not have a voice, and for our democracy. Earlier today, a group of folks representing the town and village of Ossining, Metro North, the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, the Hudson River Clearwater, and Dr. Gareth Huffam of Hudson Valley Arts and Sciences and his team, I think Dr. Huffam left, held a stakeholder meeting to discuss the Village of Ossining Pier Extension Project. HVAS secured a grant to conduct a feasibility study and produce a set of working plans to extend the village dock where the ferry currently comes in. Stakeholders, including the town, have all been working together with HVAS to develop a design option that works for everyone. Specifically, Gareth has been working closely with all interested parties, including the boat club, to come up with something that would not be disruptive to their operations or mooring fields, that could accommodate the Clearwater and other similar-sized vessels, and that would fulfill the goal of making Ossining a friendly place for people to come out and use the dock, as well as to allow transient boaters, jet skis, kayaks, canoes, etc., to access our restaurants and our beautiful waterfront. I am proud to say that in today's meeting, I think we finally got to kumbaya, and the next step is for the final draft to be presented and approved by the village board before it gets shipped out to various state agencies for approvals. Gareth will hopefully be coming to a town board work session in the near future once the village hopefully approves the schematic. So I hope to share more with you about this shortly. Also today, I was contacted by Adam Bosch from New York City DEP to discuss some action steps being considered to treat for hydrilla in the Croton Reservoir. More details of the DEC's treatment last summer in the Croton River, as well as the plans for the reservoir, will be discussed tomorrow night at Croton Village Hall at 6:30 p.m. Also yesterday at our monthly Westchester Town Supervisors Get-Together, the topic of the new federal tax law was discussed. There are a couple of bills which have been introduced in the state legislature, and which I know the governor is also working on, that seem like they may offer some hope for taxpayers to be able to continue to deduct their property taxes in similar amounts to what they could deduct in 2017 and prior. We will be working together to look if we can offer support to the state if we believe there's a viable option, and hopefully we'll do that in concert with other municipalities. We'll keep you posted. Now on to events. This Thursday evening, January 25th, the Ossining Lions Club invites you to a chat about chickens. Join them for a buffet dinner at 7 p.m. and learn about the many benefits to keeping chickens in your backyard. It ain't just the eggs. Currently, backyard birds are allowed in the town of Ossining. Local experts Brenda Quinn and Laura Houston Whitlinger will share their experiences and engage in a discussion about the merits of allowing chickens in the village of Ossining as well. The cost is $25 at the door. All are welcome. Email rsvp@ossininglions.org to hold your seat. That same evening, Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff will be holding one of her annual town hall meetings around her assembly district at the Ossining Public Library beginning at 7 p.m. Come hear about the work Sandy is doing for the 95th Assembly District at the state level and bring your questions, concerns, and ideas to share with her and her staff. This Saturday, January 27th, join community gardeners from all over the county at the Westchester County Community Garden Network Visioning Session. Whether you already have a well-honed green thumb or are considering your very first plot, come learn more about how community gardens make for healthier communities, why our county needs more community gardens, and how you can help make it happen. Email Dr. Susan Rubin, that's R-U-B-I-N, @gmail.com for more information. This event will be held at 10 a.m. at the First Unitarian Society at 25 Old Jackson Avenue in Hastings. Our best defense is to be informed. Neighbors Link invites you to an immigration presentation on your rights when interacting with law enforcement, immigration agents, or if questioned about your immigration status. The presentation will also address changes in the law regarding DACA and TPS. You will also have the opportunity for a free legal screening, and I do believe it'll be held in English and Spanish. The presentation will take place on Wednesday, January 31st at 7 p.m. at St. Anne's Church. If you're stuck on what to get your sweetie this Valentine's Day, you're in luck. The Lantern Gift Shop at St. Paul's on the Hill will be holding a special event on Saturday, February 3rd between 10 a.m. and 3 p.m. Snow date is Saturday, February 10th. They'll offer homemade cards, gifts, and don't forget the famous Valentine's Day bake sale. Be sure to enjoy a free cup of hot tea or coffee while you shop. Also on February 3rd, Westchester Collaborative Theater is hosting a midwinter dance party fundraiser at 7:30 p.m. at their home at 23 Water Street. Check out their website at wctheater.org for more information or to buy tickets. The Ossining Public Library is celebrating its 125th anniversary this year, and all are invited to the opening ceremony on Saturday, February 10th at 2 p.m., featuring special remarks, a performance by students from Ossining High School, and a reception. This will be the kickoff for a year of special events, including the Kids and Teen Celebration on Sunday, February 11th at 5:30 p.m. Both events will take place at the Ossining Public Library at 53 Croton Avenue. All are welcome. T-Town's Eagle Fest 2018 will take place on Saturday, February 10th between 9 a.m. and 4 p.m. Bring the family down to Croton Point Park to enjoy eagle shows, bird walks, children's activities, and this year, a musical performance by the always fabulous singer-songwriter Dar Williams. Also, we'll be hearing from town historian Scott Craven. You can go for an Eagle and Historic Walk. I believe that's at 2 p.m. Get more information on this wonderful annual event by visiting ttown.org/events. Finally, on Thursday, February 15th at 7 p.m., the Ossining Historic Cemeteries Conservancy will hold a midwinter meetup at the Jug Tavern. Come learn about the group's work, including upcoming headstone cleanings and the Dale Cemetery Heritage Trail. Hear some Dale, Sparta, and other stories from town and village historians Scott Craven and Dana White, and enjoy some light refreshments. RSVP by emailing OHCC1562? 10562 @gmail.com. And that's it for me. Does anybody else have any announcements before we go to liaison reports? Any announcements? All right. So in that case, can we have liaison reports? Any liaison reports?
I would like to congratulate the Ossining Ambulance OVAC on a great year, and they did a lot of work. We had the end of the year meeting, and very impressed with OVAC as always and all the work they do. So congratulations to Nick Franzoso and the crew for keeping us safe and responding quickly to all of the emergencies in town.
Anybody else? Okay. Fantastic. So let's move it right along.
To the department reports, Town Highway Superintendent Michael G. O'Connor.
I lost the bet. I said, Peter, you were going to go first. Well, first, Happy New Year. And to Councilmember Shaw, welcome to our town government. And I understand you are the liaison to the Highway Department, and I welcome the chance to talk to you about our operations. So And welcome, congratulations, and for accepting the position and coming forward as a former alumnus of the board. Welcome.
Thank you.
Okay. And I want to welcome Pete Connolly, a very long-time friend of mine, to the Highway Department as Deputy Highway Superintendent. Thank you, Peter, for accepting that. The town and village have had 12 water main breaks in the first 15 days of the month. This has been a trying time for us, infrastructure-wise. So I want to really reach out and kudos to the water department that Peter was last foreman of, and it's under the control of Michael DiMartino right now, and to all of his staff for the work that they do responding to these water main breaks. I know the leaves fell late this year. We still have leaves out there. People are calling me. We're doing the best we can. We do intend to catch up with them and to try to get them all up. Department compliance training is this Friday, mandatory compliance training. Equipment is constantly coming in for maintenance. In the next 3 to 4 weeks, we should be taking delivery of a new large 6-wheel dump truck with a built-in spreader system. This is the newest system being used today. The new spreader system being used. We're excited about this truck coming in. A week from today, our 2 most senior men will be retiring. The supervisor and staff and myself have been talking about this change to our highway department. I look forward to working with the board on any issues before the department in this coming year. And I was told to keep it short, and I hope I did that. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Michael.
Move on to jail cemetery and Pete Conley.
Mr. O'Connor, before you leave.
Oh, yeah. Do we have any, I'm sorry, I should have asked Michael O'Connor. Could you come back up a second? Just in case anybody had any questions for you.
Yeah, I have one question. You said Pete is a friend of yours, and you pay him $1 a year?
There's a reason for that. I will not explain it on camera. But yes, I'm paying him. Obviously, Peter is the superintendent of our cemetery. He's doing a fabulous job. The cemetery looks great, and good staff. And because he's doing that, without making any mistakes legal-wise or anything else, I just chose $1 a year for him to be the deputy superintendent of highways. Okay. So he's probably the lowest paid deputy highway superintendent in the state of New York.
Is that all there is in the budget? Is there?
No,
I'm
I had
sorry,
it.
I didn't mean to. Yeah, go ahead.
There's no money in the budget. I provided the $2 in my memo to the town clerk.
Yes.
$1 for each year. Right, and Madam Clerk can attest to that. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. O'Connor about any of the highway roads and byways? And we do want to just thank you for all the work and with the snow. We once again heard rave reports, so we get emails sometimes from residents who thank us and tell us how wonderful the highway department is, and that all the snow was clear and clean and it was easy for them to get around. So we wanted to say how much we appreciate that, and please pass that on to your guys.
I can't even get a cup of coffee northern for that, right?
That's true.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
First off, I'd like to thank the board and Michael for the confidence in me for the appointment. It's a great highway department. Anything I can do to help Michael, he knows he can just call upon me. I'll be glad to lend a hand. But it's in great shape, and it's probably not needed on my part. Update on some of the projects at the cemetery. Just going back to 2017 for a few minutes. We paved approximately a mile of roadway. The other roads are in very good condition, so we're looking at decades over there of good roads. 2 of the 3 retaining wall repair projects were completed before the cold weather set in, with the last one being around the Fireman's Circle, and Final Stone is going to start doing that in the spring. The broker for Section 12, which is the large Asian section, Chinese section, as you know, he expressed interest in purchasing and expanding Section 12. So I have met with Town Engineer Frioli. and a local contractor to kind of design that area. I'm currently waiting for a proposal from the firm that plots the area with pins, and I envision maybe 300 grave spaces there. So that's still, we have to work out on how they want that laid out. We've had different areas of the cemetery recently resurveyed in anticipation of making new grave space and or installing some screening or fencing. And when the weather improves, we will be installing our 20 new section signs that the town purchased over the last few months. And we have been working closely with the Ossining Historic Cemeteries Conservancy regarding the Heritage Trail, which you just announced. This is a walking tour of the grave sites of notable persons buried at the cemetery, and will include about 25 to 30 points of interest with signs describing a short history of the person interred there. I could find out. Yeah, well, we have received the signs and the posts, and once the weather breaks, we're going to be installing them. And of course, yeah, I think it is May. I think we decided on a May.
I'm going to look for it.
I don't have, yeah, we got time. And of course, we're looking to redo the superintendent's cottage, what it's called, and the office space. So besides our regular maintenance, looks like we're looking at a busy year for 2018.
We did not get the grant that we were hoping to get for the larger.
In the mic.
We didn't get the grant for the larger fix of the superintendent's cottage. That doesn't mean we won't try to apply for another one, but meanwhile, working with Stephen Tilley, architect, I think that we're hoping that they're going to get started in doing draft plans for the smaller grade fixes to the cottage, and we're ready to go on that because they were just waiting to hear if they were doing the larger or the smaller scale down version of the project. Okay, so that was May 6th, so maybe, I don't know, maybe it was, hold on 1 second, May 13th? No, that's Mother's Day. I'm having trouble finding it, so hopefully we'll let you know before it gets, I think June 3rd. June 3rd, Sunday, June 3rd is going to be the historic ribbon cutting for the historic signs. That's what they're targeting. So just for my board colleagues, if you're interested in joining us for that wonderful event, I have it for June 3rd. Okay, and we're very appreciative of all the work. We get compliments all the time about the upkeep that you and your guys have taken and the care that you've taken. You have gotten some help, I think, from the highway department on occasion.
Yeah, and parks.
And so you have kind of that symbiotic relationship, and we appreciate all the good work that's done. And obviously, it's a hot commodity because we have lots of additional interest. And I don't think you mentioned, but right now there's been a film that they've been shooting there, which
Ghosts in the Graveyard, it's called. They're coming back tomorrow again. We have that receiving vault that's down the bottom that they used to store the bodies in the winter months when they didn't have compressors and whatever with frost in the ground. So they were filming down there in different places, the older sections of the cemetery. So they're coming back tomorrow also. So.
So they really like the town. They wanted to find a place that looked like a hospital setting as well. So they filmed, I think, a week and a half or 2 weeks ago at Bethany Arts Community. And if we get lucky and the film does well, I think they have Gary Busey's son is in it. They might work on some sort of a screening at Bethany. So fingers crossed that there could be a good relationship and a good outcome as well for us on that. So thank you so much for working with them, and it's always nice when you do have films happening in the community, and hopefully we'll have a good relationship going forward and they won't cause too much upset with all those
It'll be
folks.
a good movie.
Yeah. That'll be a good movie.
You must have missed doing your water work.
Yeah,
this
okay.
winter.
Yeah.
not at 5. Well, I was out there at 5 degrees and a blizzard a few times, yeah. But and you remember those days too.
I remember you.
Anybody have any questions for Pete before he leaves? Board? No, maybe, okay, thank you very much. All right.
We'll move on to public comments on agenda items. Is there anyone here who would like to address the board on any of the agenda items?
The agenda thing about this notice I received here? Oh,
No.
okay, well, maybe I got the wrong place, but.
You can
No,
discuss
it's
that
not-
at our visitor recognition.
I'm
Just
sorry?
a little bit.
You can discuss that, yeah, in a few
We
more
just had a
minutes.
couple more minutes. We just need to get through the agenda, and then you can talk to that in our visitor recognition section. Okay? Anybody else to address the board on any agenda items? Anything that's on the regular agenda that we're about to approve, a variety of resolutions? No?
Okay.
Okay.
Resolve the town board of the town of Austin hereby approves the January 9th, 2018 minutes of the reorganizational meeting as presented.
So moved. Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Abstaining 'cause-
At the meeting. I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, just checking.
Resolve the town board, the town of Austin hereby approves the January 16th, 2018 minutes of the special meeting as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolve the town board, the town of Austin approves the village detail report dated January 23rd, 2018, in the amount of $56,467.97 for 2017, and $624,407.41 for 2018.
Have a
for
motion.
Grand
Oh, sorry.
total of $680,875.38.
So moved.
Second.
So we have a pretty late 2017 run, but the 2018 bills were significant this time around. We had our January Village of Austin IMA bill for $132,000, our February medical bill for $120,000, our right-of-way survey for McCarthy Drive for $21,400, and more than $350,000 of refunds of tax overpayments from the end of 2017. So we were only allowed to collect the town taxes and not the county taxes because the county did not issue a warrant. So much of that money was probably refunded because people had paid either a random amount or they had also included money for their county taxes, which we were not able to accept. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby reappoints Mitzi Elks as chair to the Town of Austin Environmental Advisory Committee to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
Have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
I'm excited to be able to reappoint this evening our chair, Mitzi Elks, along with John Ladd, a resident map expert, and Jim Nolan to the EAC. These guys have been doing a great job of advising our land use boards and the town board on issues we should be considering both in general and in terms of specific applications. And we're grateful that they have agreed to another 5-year term of volunteer service. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby reappoints James Nolan to the Town of Austin Environmental Advisory Committee to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
Have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby reappoints John Ladd to the Town of Austin Environmental Advisory Committee to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
We have a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby appoints Mike Turco Austin to the Town of Austin Board of Ethics to serve the remainder of Ms. Sandy Hirsch's term set to expire on 12/31/2020.
We have a motion.
So moved.
So as you may remember, a few weeks back, we regretfully had to accept the resignation of our Town Board of Ethics Chair, Sandy Hirsch, who had some personal issues come up and could no longer serve. Mr. Turco was interested in joining, and we are happy to be appointing him to the remainder of Sandy's term tonight. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby reappoints David O'Neill to the Town of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So for our zoning board of appeals, we're pleased to reappoint David O'Neill. David Krieger, who was a former town board member, who served us admirably, and newly appoint Carolyn Stevens, who's a transplant from the Sound Shore, who had many years of experience with land use issues in particular, and specifically served as mayor of Scarsdale. We're grateful for the continued service of Mr. Krieger and Mr. O'Neill, and thank you in advance to Carolyn for stepping up to serve her new municipality in this way. Do you have a motion? Oh, I already
Yeah, we
did that.
did that.
Okay, all those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby reappoints David Krieger to the Town of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
Motion? I just said it in all together, but do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board hereby appoints Carolyn Stevens Ossining to the Town of Ossining Zoning Board of Appeals to serve a 5-year term set to expire on 12/31/2022.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board of the Town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the 2018 tax map maintenance contract with CAI Technologies, Littleton, New Hampshire, for the 2018 year as per their proposal of January 3rd, 2018, and at a price not to exceed $7,900, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
At the recommendation of our town assessor, Fernando Gonzalez, we're going to be renewing our tax mapping service with CAI for another year. We've gotten great service from these folks for several years now, and we look forward to continuing this relationship with them. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board of the Town of Ossining hereby authorizes the supervisor to sign the additional services addendum contract with Tyler Technologies, Moraine, Ohio, to extend their services to the town through June 30th, 2018, at a price not to exceed $30,000, subject to approval by council to the town as to form.
Do I have a motion?
Second.
So we are contracting again with Tyler Technologies to assist in the analysis and implementation to maintain the 2018 assessment roll at 100% of market value. Some of this work involves helping our staff to maintain the accuracy of the property inventory by updating records based on building permits, sales, and owner-requested inspections. We've been using a different consultant for this in 2017, but Fernando suggested that this would be a more economical way to maintain the accurate and up-to-date records and information that is required to produce fair and equitable values based on the current real estate market. Questions? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Resolved, the town board of the Town of Ossining hereby calls for a public hearing to be held on Tuesday, February 13th at 7:30 PM at the Birdsall Fagan Police Court Facility, 8688 Spring Street, Ossining, New York, in the matter of local law number 2 of 2018, entitled Extension of Cold War Veterans Exemption in the Town of Ossining.
Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
So if you followed last week's town board work session, you know that Mr. Gonzalez joined us to discuss the board taking action to consider extending the exemption for veterans of the Cold War, which otherwise would sunset later this year. We will be holding the public hearing on this law at our next regular meeting on Tuesday, February 13th. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Whereas in 2016, the United States Coast Guard proposed establishing new anchorage grounds along the Hudson River between Yonkers and Kingston. And whereas Governor Cuomo signed A.6825A and S5197B into law and positioned New York State to continue to fulfill its responsibility to the Hudson River and its communities from the many potential dangers presented by oil-carrying vessels on the Hudson River and the proposed additional barge anchorage grounds. And whereas the federal government and New York State share concurrent jurisdiction over the Hudson River, and as long as action by the state is not inconsistent with existing federal regulations and does not unreasonably burden interstate commerce, New York has significant authority to regulate navigable waters like the Hudson when the state's interest warrants special precautionary measures. And whereas it remains a top priority of the town of Ossining to prevent any new anchorage grounds in the Hudson River from being sited at locations where they pose a clear and direct threat to the environment, quality of life, and regional economic development goals of the Hudson River, and whereas the town of Ossining is home to a large population of recreational boaters and fishermen, both of whom contribute to the local economy, enjoy the pristine beauty of the waterfront, as well as soon-to-be home of the Sing Sing Prison Museum, a transformation tourist destination that will serve as a catalyst for economic development throughout the entire Hudson Valley, and the integrity of all these assets would be threatened by the establishment of new barge anchorage grounds. And whereas the Hudson River has a special place in many towns, many in town of Ossining, activities and organizations such as the annual Independence Day fireworks celebration, the summer concert series, Earth Day, the Ossining Sailing Club, the Ossining Boat and Canoe Club, and so much more, all of which have a potential to be adversely impacted by changes to the use or the health of the river. And whereas the town of Ossining has a substantial interest in preserving unfettered access to the Hudson River and keeping the river and its shores healthy and safe for residents, visitors, and wildlife while maintaining this valuable asset for future generations. And whereas the town of Ossining has documented its concerns about the anchoring of petroleum-carrying tankers, including disrupting the economic vitality of the waterfront, endangering drinking water supplies, damaging fish habitat, and detracting from scenic beauty and quality of life along the river. See Resolution D from the meeting of August 23, 2016. And whereas the United States Coast Guard recently conducted 2 ports and waterway safety assessment workshops for the stretch of the Hudson River between the Tappan Zee Bridge and the Port of Albany, and the recommendation to establish new anchorage grounds was discussed and could be part of the United States Coast Guard's Port and Waterway Safety Assessment Report. And whereas New York State has secured important victories that have seen essential to public health, the environment, and the economy of the state, including the administrator's support for the Environmental Protection Fund, the anti-hydraulic fracturing, increasing funding of the state's oil spill response fund, and issuance of water quality permit decisions relating to energy development and transport that have been among these many accomplishments. And whereas the new law gives the Department of Environmental Conservation the ability to establish areas of the Hudson River where it shall be unlawful for petroleum-bearing vessels to enter, move, or anchor. Now therefore be it resolved that the town of Ossining requests that DEC Commissioner Sagos immediately advance a rulemaking process to establish tanker avoidance zones for petroleum-bearing vessels, implementing the strongest possible regulations allowed under the law. And be it further resolved that the town clerk of the town of Ossining, New York, is hereby authorized and directed to send a copy of this resolution to the Honorable Andrew M. Cuomo, Governor of the State of New York, the Honorable Basil Sagos, Commissioner of the Department of Environmental Conservation, the Honorable State Senator David Carlucci, and the Honorable Assemblywoman Sandy Galiff, and to such other persons as the town clerk in her discretion may deem proper in order to effectuate the purpose of this resolution.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Wow, that was fantastic. Thank you so much, Madam Clerk, for reading that very lengthy resolution. As many of you will remember, last week, at a work session, we discussed a request by Scenic Hudson to pass a resolution urging the DEC to proceed with a rulemaking process for the tanker avoidance zones. As access to our beautiful Hudson River is one of the defining characteristics of the Ossining community, the board unanimously agreed back in 2016 that these tankers should not be allowed. And this sitting board also unanimously agrees that the DEC should proceed immediately with implementing most stringent rules for tanker avoidance zones permissible by law. At least I assume that until we vote. All those in favor? Aye. It's true. Unanimously. Opposed? As I said. Thank you. Okay.
I am turning over reading to our budget officer.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we have 4 tax cert resolutions. Council has advised that I don't need to read the entire text. So the first is for Briarcliff Ventures LLC v. Town of Ossining, and this is for assessment year 2016, and all of these numbers are on the town website and on file with the town clerk. Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending. And it is further resolved that council to the town is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement, and it is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes, estimated to be $108.86, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
We have a motion.
So moved.
So it's been a while since we've seen any tax certs, and it's likely a consequence of both the townwide reval and also all of the cleanup work being done over the past several years by Fernando Gonzalez and his staff. Mr. Gonzalez came to review these with our board last week in executive session, and I want to thank him, his staff, our receiver of taxes, Holly Perlowitz, and Deputy Town Comptroller Dale Ferrara for working to make sure these refunds are processed accurately and timely. And the only thing I just don't know if you said is the first one was Briarcliff Ventures LLC versus Town of Ossining. So let's just make sure that we state which ones they are before. Just that one. Did you? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm sorry. I just wasn't sure, so I just wanted to make sure that we said that one. Okay, fantastic. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
Okay, the second is LDM of Ossining Corp., the Town of Ossining. And again, the numbers are on file with the town clerk's office. Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending. And it is further resolved that council to the town is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement. And it is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes, estimated to be $169.03, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
We have a motion.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
The third is MJV Realty Development Corp. v. Town of Ossining. Again, the numbers are on file. Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending. It is further resolved that council to the town is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement. It is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes, estimated to be $202.49, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
We have a motion.
Moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed?
The final tax cert is 204 Spring Street Associates LLC v. Town of Ossining. Resolved that settlement of the proceedings on the terms set forth herein is hereby accepted and approved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, wherein such proceedings are pending. And it is further resolved that council to the town is hereby authorized and directed to procure and execute any documents necessary to effectuate such settlement. And it is further resolved, subject to the approval of the Supreme Court, Westchester County, that the assessor is authorized and directed to make the changes and corrections to the individual unit assessment on the tax assessment roll of the town of Ossining, which will be ordered pursuant to the consent judgment to be entered in accordance with the terms of this settlement. And the receiver of taxes is authorized and directed to process and pay the refund of town of Ossining taxes, estimated to be $55.80, which will be ordered pursuant to said consent judgment.
Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
I do want to say they're much lower numbers than normal since our reassessment, and
Absolutely.
I see that the courts are agreeing that the assessed numbers are very close, and we don't have to give back nearly as much as we used to.
And
really enjoying that.
That's great, and the numbers are low. I just will say that while, as low as these numbers are, the ones for the 2 school districts are not as low. So, we never like to have to get into these situations, and we're happy that they're fewer and far between, and that the settlements are lower in general, so.
Thank you, Maddie. Correspondence to be received and filed, we have none. We have no monthly reports, which will take us to visitor recognition. If you would like to address the board, kindly state your name and your residential address.
My name is James Fraser. I live at 19 Knollview. Back in 2001, I moved from the city up here, and I thought I was buying a condo. And until recently, I found out it's a PUD. And I have 2 questions. Number one, what is a PUD? And why are my taxes the same as if I was a homeowner and not as a condo?
All right. And would you like me to address that? I'm looking at my at council to.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, that's okay. Is there? I'm just gonna. PUD stands for Planned Unit Development, and I can't tell you why the law was set up the way it was, and I don't know why the town at the time approved certain units to be PUDs and certain units, which are a different type of homeowner association than condos. Condos are one type of homeowner association. Co-ops are another type, and they are assessed differently. And why they're assessed differently, I can't tell you. I can tell you, with regard to the mailer that you were holding up before, that we've met on a number of occasions, this town board as well as the previous town board. I'm not quite sure if Ms. Shaw was on the town board when we came to a loose conclusion that we did not believe, even though we acknowledge that this is not equitable, the way that assessments are done here or elsewhere throughout New York State, that the one option that seems to be offered to us as a town would be to adopt the homestead option. And if we were to do that, that would change the classifications of properties, and it would actually shift the condos into the to be assessed at market value. It would assess them into the residential class of properties. Right now, they're in a commercial class of properties, so they're assessed based on the income valuation versus market valuation. So we had evaluated, we looked at it, we looked at some studies. We're in the process of considering if we would like to conduct our own study to see what the impact might be in the town of Ossining. We don't believe that down the road that it would be good for overall health of the community, which is why we have not chose to adopt it. Or consider it, actually. We brought in some experts. We had a public town hall meeting about it in November? I thought it was November, but maybe it was October. We had a lot of people come out and talk about it, and we've heard a lot from many, many people. We've received postcards about this issue. But at this point, we don't believe that there's a good remedy available to us through state law that would actually make for a more equitable situation based on.
For the town of Ossining or for the residents who pay the taxes?
Well, for the residents, of course. I mean, that,
For the community as
for
a
the
whole.
community as a whole, because everybody pays taxes. That it's a property owner. I mean, even people who rent pay taxes, indirectly. Everybody pays taxes who lives here in Ossining and who works here in Ossining. People who own businesses also pay taxes. So the issue that we've identified as being problematic for adopting homestead is that when you set apart these two classes and the residential values increase faster than commercial values, what happens is you start to get this huge piece of the pie, a different discrepancy in the tax rates between the residential and the commercial, because commercial values don't tend to increase as quickly as residential. And then the commercial properties have these much higher rate increases. So you have much higher rates of commercial property. And then what happens is your commercial zones bottom out, So that would affect the downtowns in Briarcliff, in Village of Ossining, as well as the town of Ossining. All of our commercial zones would be have the potential to be negatively impacted if that were to happen. And then that impacts the overall value, and it impacts everybody's taxes. In the end, it impacts us all negatively. So.
Well, what are similar towns doing around that are converting what I live into the condos
So
to lower their taxes?
Right. So when they did that, for example, when Mamaroneck did that, we found out recently, and some of the PUDs did convert. Now, we actually were evaluating, we think that that's going backwards and not going in the right direction, because we don't think that that's the right law that we have on the books. But again, that's what is on the books. But we were looking into a law that had been on the books in the Village of Ossining that doesn't allow that to happen. And it turns out the town has that very same law on the books. As of 2009, PUDs cannot convert to condos and get that different assessed value formula. So it's not allowable as of 2009.
Well, can we change the law? I mean, it just doesn't seem fair.
Yeah, well, I mean, I think I think that the condo law isn't fair, but I don't think that we have something in place that is fair and that solves the problem. I certainly don't think going backwards and now allowing more properties to be part of that class is a solution to the problem. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but.
It just, to me, like, I'm retired now, and you can understand why people are leaving New York State by the droves. It's just the taxes don't make any sense, make no sense at all. That's all I got to say.
Thank you.
I don't know if I can follow that with any eloquence, but thank you. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
How are you?
Okay.
I've, Madam Chairman, members, I have listened for 2.5 hours of great government. I congratulate you all.
Are you going to introduce yourself, because we don't know who you are yet?
I'm sorry. My name is Warren Gregory.
Thank you.
I live at 27 Beechwood Way. I am the president of the Beechwood Homeowners Association.
Okay.
And this little flyer that you all are aware with came through the mail last week, and my good vice president, Mr. O'Leary, we both went to Fordham, but he's younger than I am, decided that we would come and present ourselves and tell you that we are interested in this topic. We understand the complexity of it. We think we have just started our research. Many of the things, Madam Chairman, that you said are absolutely true. If you try to reverse some of these trends now, you would cause some upheavals in the real estate marketplace and in the development zones, and how you begin to level those out are thorny problems. There are no easy solutions. We do feel, however, in the research that we've done, our 37 units, our 60-plus voting residents, are not the parents of kids going to school, and use a much smaller part of the social service space that the town provides than perhaps single-family home residential owners. We understand that there's been a lot of water under the bridge on this, so we're going to try to not go back and regurgitate it all, but we are going to spend some time studying it, and we would hope at the proper opportunity we could come back and talk with you again and present to you what we feel, and see if perhaps we can find some common ground to move forward. I would like to also, if I may, personally thank Holly Perlowitz, your receiver of taxes. I am a disabled Vietnam veteran. I followed state law and filed for my exemption. A year later, I had not heard anything. Mr. O'Leary, who is a former Westchester County elected official, knew Ms. Perlowitz, put me in contact with her, and in a day and a half, she put together all the information that I needed and was terrifically helpful, and I wish to publicly express my appreciation for what she did. I think this is an issue that as you correctly say, is going to take some time to solve, but we do feel that there may be, from what we've seen on the surface so far, some inequities that can perhaps be addressed in other manners, and we would like the opportunity, when appropriate, to come back and to, again, testify before you and present those ideas.
Well, we certainly are open to suggestions to correct inequities. I think that's, again, we know from this flyer that has been circulated from what is the group called? Citizens for Fair Taxation?
Citizens for Fair Taxes.
Citizens
and
for
Equity
Fair
and
Taxation.
Love and Victory in Westchester County, yes.
Okay, I think it just came out today, that they believe that that the town board has not acted in good faith in terms of equitable taxation. I will reiterate that all of the members of the town board are single-family homeowners. So all of us stand to personally gain if we were to adopt homestead. And as we've looked at the issue and evaluated the issue, all of us have also concluded that it doesn't seem like homestead is the remedy. It's not a silver bullet. It doesn't seem like it's going to solve the problem without creating other problems. And we think that those unintended consequences have been fairly well documented throughout the state of New York. But as I mentioned earlier to the gentleman, because the studies have looked at other types of communities that aren't exactly Ossining, we have bandied about the notion of conducting our own study that would look more specifically at Ossining, because we have a unique breakdown of commercial properties, residential properties, condominiums, and other types of homeowners associations within the village and the two villages in the town. And we believe that it might behoove us to get a little bit more specific information, maybe look a little bit more specifically at how homestead has affected other communities in Westchester and surrounding counties that might be more like Westchester versus some of the ones that are a little more upstate. So with that said, I think that you will be hearing more about what we're going to do in the near future as we evaluate costs and proposals for moving forward with a study like that. As far as any suggestions, we do also know that the state has a lot to do with this. It's not, we don't just go rogue and get to do whatever we want. We have to work within the confines of state law, and the state law doesn't leave us a whole lot of leeway. We had talked about having a meeting potentially with Assemblywoman Galiff and maybe the folks from SUNY New Paltz who came down here to talk to us about this issue. They have been studying it over time, and they continue to study it. And we had talked about possibly going up to meet with them and her, since she chairs the Real Property Committee in the Assembly, to see if there might be any potential solutions that hadn't been considered. She's actually introduced legislation over the years to try to address this, and there have been a couple of different proposals that would have to do with when you sell your condo, that when you flip the condo, then it changes how it's valued, or when you all of these sorts of things. But none of them really look at taking the PUDs and going the other direction. No. They're all going the other way. So as much as you might want to be part of that condo group, I don't see that's happening. I mean, again, why are we going in that direction when everybody thinks that that's not fair? Not everybody, because the condos love it. And the interesting thing that we did learn in that whole town meeting, at least that I learned, was that the original reason that this legislation was put into place was to actually protect condos and make them more affordable, which I thought was very interesting. Now, I don't know, again, that you would necessarily consider some of the condos in Ossining or Briarcliff, quote unquote, affordable, but they were put in place to address. So if you have great ideas and suggestions, I can't imagine anybody on this board saying that we wouldn't be open to them. But thank you.
Well, thank you.
One thing to say. If whatever you come up with, make it so that everybody can understand it. Because I'll tell you, I know the gentleman just left. He has no idea what was said. He just said okay and went on out. He doesn't know what all this is going to. I know that it has to be said the way it is. But sometimes you can shorten these things up and so everybody can understand it. And I know that everybody don't understand it. Well, you see that when we have those town hall meetings. So
It's a complicated topic.
It is.
Well, Supervisor, thank you for your comments, and I'm certainly mindful of that. I had the privilege years ago in another life to serve as a consultant to Freddie Mac, which is the large funding agency, and I would walk away from some of those meetings scratching my head and say, I think I understand this. No, I don't understand it. So it is a very confusing topic, and I thank you again, Madam Chairman, members, supervisors, for your time, and these are difficult issues, and unlike the actions of some of our bigger government agencies, I work together, and I work as a team, and I look forward to the opportunity to come back and address you again.
Okay.
Mr. O'Leary?
Supervisor Levenberg, members of the board, my name is John O'Leary. I live at 35 Beechwood Way, and I'm the Vice President of the Homeowners Association at Beechwood Way with Warren. And it is a perplexing problem. I see there's really two courses of action. You can allow us to become a condo, which I can understand the economics and probably doesn't make sense, or you could bring the condos up to our status and they'd pay more money. There's a lot more condos in the town of Austin than there are PUDs. There's about 450 PUDs, and I think there's like 1,500 condos, something like that. So it's going to be a difficult problem that you've got to face. But it is a taxation issue because we are very similar to a condo. We have shared services. You know, we are structured in essentially the same way, but we're not labeled a condo, so our taxes are higher. And I think it's a fair taxation issue that it's going to take us some time to work through, and hopefully we can come to a resolution that is fair to everybody. Thank you. And I wanted to make it quick because I'm the last one here. And I know you want to all get home.
Thank you, everybody, for joining us for somewhat lengthy, but hopefully informative meeting. As a reminder, next Tuesday is a fifth Tuesday. Yes, that's right, Councilman Wiltshire. It's a
He likes to meet on the 15th.
Tuesday
That's my
for
day.
us, and the town board will not be meeting. So we're going to see everybody next Tuesday, on the next Tuesday, February 6th, for our work session and special meeting at 16 Croton Avenue. I just want to remind everybody that, once again, I know that our highway superintendent mentioned it, but we are saying goodbye to our highway foreman, John Martin, and also Rick Planamenta. And we're very sad to see them go. And we just want to thank them again for their many, many, many years of wonderful service. They both retire on January 30th, so please take a minute to stop by the highway department and give them a wave and a hug and a handshake, and thank them for all their great service to the unincorporated town. Thanks so much, everybody. And if I could have a motion, please, to adjourn into executive session for advice of counsel, I would greatly appreciate it. I know somebody's not going to be making that. Thank you. Councilwoman Feldman. And? Do you have a second? Okay, wonderful. All those in favor? Aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you, everyone, and have a great week.